This is Naoki Yoshida,
This is Fern Hall.
and you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast. We've got Zenidra, we've got Aldino, we've got Rook, and joining us today as our guest, we got Sly. What's going on?
Hi, how you doing? I'm doing great and glad to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Happy to have you.
Always fun.
And real quick before we do get going here. So last week, if you watch us live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gamerscape, you know that we raided our good friend Pook, who is doing his anniversary stream over on Twitch. That crazy guy gave us an offline hype train, which was actually our first hype train on the channel. And Pook's been going through a little bit of a rough patch the last couple days. So big shout out to Pook in the chat. Hope you feel better soon. And we will at some point get that Void Quest episode done with you. So
Yes.
We love you, Pook.
I have been leveling Summoner. It will happen at some point
Oh,
here.
yeah?
Yep, 70. I gotta quest my dragon, and then I'm probably just Boja for 10 levels. I don't know what
Probably.
I don't know how the kids
Yeah.
level these days. I don't.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
How those
do the
young
kids
whippersnappers
Yeah.
get that experience in Final Fantasy XIV Online.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, we didn't have all this bullshit crap. We
I-
went through dungeons, and we freaking liked
Yeah.
We did heaven on high.
Dungeons uphill both ways.
You remember?
it. Heaven on high, try dungeons down low. How you doing?
I love that multiple of us have old people voices.
We do. Apparently,
Yeah.
we were all just waiting to unleash our inner old person personas. I'm so proud of us.
Yeah.
Man, you remember that
High five.
brief period of time where PvP was the best bang for your buck for
Oh, yeah.
experience?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Sometimes.
And that's the reason I was able to buy towel furnishings for my house.
Okay.
Nice.
So today, we are going to be talking about predictions for 6.0 and the announcement showcase, which we'll do news real quick here. Next week is going to be crazy.
It's gonna be so good.
It's going to be crazy. So, and again, we talked about this last week. If we show up in our PJs, if we have like an IV drip with some coffee or something, it's fine. Everything's fine. Except for Zen. Zen will be just awake regardless.
I'm pretty convinced that Zen never sleeps and is somehow just fueled by the energy of the universe.
That sounds right.
That's a very kind thought, but no.
Okay, so next week, we got a lot of stuff going on. Tuesday, because we didn't have enough stuff going on at the end of the week already. Tuesday is 5.45. So that's Delibram Regine, that's Save the Queen, that's Sky Steel Tools, and that's Blue Mage Update. Lots of stuff to do this week in game. And then on Friday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific is the announcement showcase. We are expecting big things from that. Yoshida-san said it himself, expect big things. And then if that's not enough information for you, later at 10 p.m. is going to be live letter. So
When
they're
I
not
wake up.
doing yeah. So they're not doing the 14-hour broadcast because of how COVID's kind of flared back up and people are locking down a little bit more again. But we're still getting the announcement showcase and a live letter same night. So that means next Saturday we'll be talking about the announcement showcase and the live letter, which means I have to get all that stuff typed up, posted, outlined. Lots of stuff going on next week.
It might not be a 14-hour announcement showcase, but it will be a 14-hour Aetheryte Radio podcast the following day.
Ooh, wow! I'm
you
exhausted just thinking about that.
I think
The
the
thing
the
is-
most we've done is 3.5, 4.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
maybe
four.
push
That
it
sounds
5
right.
once, maybe. I mean, I think we could do it, but at what cost? I don't know if we'd be the same afterwards. I have no doubt we could find things to talk about for 14 hours, but
We could take 7 hours for D&D. I mean, that's fine.
yeah.
Just the 7-hour one.
Oh my gosh! Everybody, you're all
Why am I
crazy.
feeling terrible? Happy and I making the decision to cover this live.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. So you guys are co-streaming, right? So So
You're gonna be
all right.
okay. It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be fine. You're gonna
So
be
are you
fine.
expecting a gap then? What are you guys doing for that? There's got to be at least a little bit of downtime between the two. I can't imagine that they're doing like a 4.5 hour showcase.
They're just gonna kick back in their chairs and be like this. Nap for a little bit.
Wake up periodically when something really exciting happens. Like, oh yeah, new job. Okay, all right. Just right back to sleep.
Yeah, so lots of exciting
Yoshi
stuff.
P's dulcet tones will wake you up every time there's something important.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm on the West Coast, so I'm just excited to not do work for the last hour of work while I'm just watching announcements.
I feel really bad for the a lot of times for the live letter they bring in a guest for the second half, and it's just like they don't really do a lot of translation or anything, so it's just kind of like that's the point where you start to kind of like and this is going to be after the announcement showcase. This is going to be super crazy times for a lot of people. It's just like nobody's going to pay attention to what happens with the guest.
No, not even a little bit.
Unless
they bring in like a really banging guest.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
It's gosh, they announced it. They announced who the guest is going to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let me pull that up real quick.
Yeah,
You can see we already don't care about it. We don't have it in the
I mean, I am just glad that of course these time zones and these sort of like time frames for live letters and announcements and things, they're always all over the place. Like sometimes they're great for Japan, sometimes they're great for Europe. Very rarely are they great for the US. So this is one of the few times where I was like, finally, we have one.
Every so often you get that not horribly timed thing, and it will be presented in English, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Live letter.
It's like all my name days come at once.
Yeah. So live letter will not have English, unfortunately, but they will have lead project manager Shoichi Matsuzawa will be the guest for that.
That is actually exciting to me.
Okay.
Is it?
I do, yeah.
Charles.
I do want to know, right? Because it's kind of Yoshi P is kind of the one we see with the big picture, but this would be another person who has more of the big picture, probably in like one specific area, maybe. I don't know how they split it up, but that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Is that one of the people we saw in that series of videos?
I
You're gonna have to be a little bit more specific. I feel like there've been several series
where they went to like different departments.
The Shadowbringers ones.
Yeah.
The like art team. How they split it up.
I don't know if we saw him. Did
I
we?
don't know.
The name is vaguely.
It's really familiar.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll rewatch it.
So
we have a whole
definitely
podcast about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Definitely
anybody
come
who
back.
doesn't know, there's usually a lot of like simultaneous live translations that are happening in various discords and like all over the place and on Reddit. So I mean, even in that second half that isn't going to have like the live English translation right then and there with a live letter, there's a ton of places you can go to get that information while it is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish they had something more robust for like the English translation on even live letters, but there are so many people who do it and do a great job, even just with fan subs. So
it's rough. I mean, they used to do such a good job in an official capacity covering the live letter with the official forums, and then they just kind of stopped and they do tweets on occasion now, and it's just like, I get it, right, to an extent. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. The timing is terrible, but like
they're sleepy too.
Right.
Yeah, right. So,
but they're getting paid.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that. All right, that's going to lead us into our predictions then for 6.0 and the announcement showcase coming up next week.
There's more news.
Yeah.
In May. Digital Fan Fest.
Oh, yeah. How did I?
Yeah.
This is terrible.
That's
I forgot
part
about
of our Gamer Escape interview.
I forgot
that we
about
just
our
had
own
last
interview.
week.
We've got a Q&A up with Yoshida-san up on gamerscape.com. He did confirm there will be a digital fan fest in May. I would expect that to be because if you think about the before times, May is usually when we get the media tours. So in May, that digital fan fest will probably have stuff that we would normally see from a media tour. Videos that are doing like area tours, or the big job adjustment video with the new actions and stuff like that. I would expect that to come at that event.
Do you think they will crop down the icons for the job abilities and just email them to us so we don't have to do it?
Oh my
I mean, that would be amazing. I'm
gonna have to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do it again.
Right.
Every year when we go, we take a million screenshots, and then we have to clip out all of the icons and make them
I'm just gonna
little
go
nice
ahead
charts for you guys.
and look at every single action in the game. I'll be really curious to see how they handle the media tour this year. Yeah, they could do it remotely, but do they want to give people localized builds of the expansion that's unreleased? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
I do honestly hope that they give us the tooltips, though, because a lot of people, that's what they concentrate on.
That's all we need.
That is a big focus of that stuff, yes. I'll be
Just
really curious.
Preemptively send a little email in there like, hey, we know you're probably not doing this Meteor Tour thing, but, the tooltips would be cool.
Well, and the nice thing about this would be you don't have, like, all the creators that, like, like, we're at the event, right? You're like, hey, did you get the updated tooltip for, like, Wildfire?
Yes.
I missed it. Like,
oh, yes.
There's always at least one action that you're like, crap, I forgot. Yeah.
That peek behind the curtain, like, you know, I don't stream at all, so that's like the only interaction I have with the community other than on the podcast, and it's just so awesome when we're all like, okay, do you have that? Yeah, I have this. All right, do you got that? Yeah, I got this. Here you go. Here's some footage that you have because yours is gone.
This is why we're not competitive in this community. We're all friends because we all need help.
Because at one point somebody's gonna need a tooltip.
Yep.
All right, so let's just we have a list. We asked for your predictions as well. We'll sprinkle those in as we go along. We just
thank you so much for reaching out and giving us your predictions. We got like a pretty fair amount.
We had a pretty good amount. And there's a lot of them are pretty like I would say in tune with, I think, the general kind of consensus of what people are expecting. But so what we're going to talk about, we just kind of have some we're going to categorize it a little bit. Otherwise we'll be like all over the place, right? So first things first, areas. Where are we going to go in 6.0? Sly, we'll start with you.
There's quite a bit. Like starting out like in just 6.0, like where we are, where we'll be. It's tough to say. I mean, we see everything going on in Garlemald right now. We have people in Garlemald. Whether or not, like, I think the general consensus in the community has been that eventually, somehow, some way, we're going to go to Garlemald. And I'm still of that mind. One other place that we like bring up in passing that I really want to go to, and like funny thing, like I do a little bit of RP, aka I go to the Allure Lounge, and last night they had a Thavnair night. I'm like, you know what?
Okay.
Thavnair would be nice. It would be nice to see Thavnair. So yeah, Thavnair would be nice. I don't know how it would fit into the lore of 6.0, but it would just be nice. As far as everything else, I mean, I don't know about Shoreland. It would be nice, but I'm not gonna call it like I'm not gonna call it a stretch. I mean, I just need a reason to go to Shoreland. Like fair. Other than, lore, obvious lore, of course, we want that Shoreland lore, but I need a reason. Give me a reason to want to go to Shoreland.
Right.
Knowledge.
Yeah, but
I mean, yeah.
Sick neck tattoos.
All right. Okay.
We could read all those
That's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Breaking 6.0 prediction news. Hrothgar and Fiera will be able to get new face tattoos, but still can't wear hats.
How
Don't hurt me.
Why?
Don't hurt me like this.
To get those face tattoos, do they need to write a thesis though?
Ooh.
Look, I would write a fantasy thesis to get even one more hair option on Fiera and Hrothgar. I would do it.
Goodness.
As far as like anywhere else, again, what I'm hoping they do with the trailer, and we'll get to the trailer probably later. How we normally have I say normally, but the last time I think was Stormblood was when they opened up the map. I want to see the extended map, like within the middle, around Garlemald and everything like that. Open the clouds up. Let's see everything.
Move that bus. Wait,
Just-
that's
just-
too old.
Yes.
I was gonna say, just take a big fan, just blow all those clouds away. What was that weird Gigas giant thing over there? Like, what's that?
Ethos talked about that. Apparently, there was a legion that took that thing down.
Oh,
We don't know what it is, but there was a legion out of
I wanna
Guardians
know.
that took that thing down. Like, and I want to know too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I feel all those. I mean, I think Garlemald, it's funny because before we actually got into a lot of the patch stuff here, Garlemald was what I was like, that's where we go it. Like, that's going to be the big focus. But as we've kind of gone more into it and with the Emerald Weapon, the more I think it's probably going to be amongst like the provinces that are squabbling of Garlemald, right? And that even that zone we've seen with Turncliffe and the Emerald Weapon, right? Those are all new assets. Those are all new things. So I think you're totally right, Sly, in that I would not be surprised if we get to a lot of those areas that are around Garlemald or kind of composing all of the different, regions that they have invaded and like pushing back some of those clouds. But I was surprised that I don't feel like now, having gone through all the patch content we've gone through, I was surprised that I don't know if that's going to be really the only or even like the biggest place that we're doing exploration. I mean, Sherlion, it's funny because we were talking to Ethies during Lorecast, and Ethies is like, Sherlion is where we're going, 110%.
Yeah.
And I was kind of convinced because even with some of the stuff we've gotten going back to Matoya and things like that, I do think that it's very likely that they may have some information or some knowledge that's pertinent to, whatever happened or whatever remnants of Zodiark, the ancients, that could have been uncovered that maybe they've been hoarding or that could be there. Plus, it's been a place that for so long we have I think a lot of people have been curious to see more of. Plus, we've gotten those little tidbits about like Sherlion lore and bread and all these things that are kind of building up the culture and people a little bit.
That bread.
Yeah.
That bread. So I do feel like that could be something. But Thavnair is another one that I think a lot of people have wanted to go to. And with like Dancer's Origins, that would be so great. I mean, I'm over here just, I cannot get enough of like the Dravania vibe. So for me, I mean, I would love to push even further at some point into like the actual Draconic homeland and, everything that's sort of there. I don't think we'll get that this time around, but that's always been one that's kind of on my back burner. Mericidia. Yeah, I would just love to see more Mericidia.
I want like I'm speculating. I think we know kind of where Mericidia is, and we know Thavnair is kind of far away, but I would love an island expansion, right? Thavnair, Mericidia, maybe Sharlayan, you know what I mean? Because they're kind of off, separated from the continent.
Yeah, we definitely
the New World. That'd be cool.
Thavnair is on the map.
Yeah,
at least Mericidia is not. New World obviously is not on the map. I think I don't think that Thavnair is likely for 6.0.
Probably not.
But I also envision it as more of a smaller kind of hub area.
Sure.
Maybe with a Blitzball dome.
Wow. I see it as like a spring point. Like, it is right there, like centered under Garlemald, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we're gonna head over here to Thavnair and let you look at all this pretty stuff, and then also go to war.
Yeah, I could see it being Kugane of the next expansion. You know what I mean? Kind of
We
the
talked
staging
about-
point to launch.
We talked about last time how if we do go to Thavnair, it's kind of like, I keep looking up because I have a map on my wall, but that's why I'm looking up in weird directions. If we do go to Thavnair, it would be really super great if it had Ottergon vibes. Even the dancer instructor that comes from there has the name of the Empress from Ottergon from 11.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
had all these ideas for like Sharlayan and Garlemald. Now I just want Thavnair if it's going to be like Ottergon based. You
I
killed
know.
all of my.
Yeah. As soon as people say Thavnair now, the Ottergon music from the
it's
main
in my head.
town
It's
starts playing in my head.
already
Yes!
in my head.
Yes.
Bustle of the capital. Yep, already.
I mean,
yep.
the Thavnair like fashion set, the gear set, has also been so popular for so long that if they wanted to just give like more glamours that people would like, which sounds like such a silly thing to weigh in this discussion, but like the aesthetic. Yeah, it's like the aesthetic and the sort of, things that the community really loves and or can get like really passionate about. I think they definitely weigh. So I could see something like that. I was surprised that nobody, at least not most of the people that I have been sort of, keeping tabs on or following, or that people even commented when we were asking about this, New World didn't come up very often, which is fair because I think to me that does feel like it could be something that, could happen in a totally different expansion or but it is something that with like Blue Mage we've had mentioned a decent amount.
It's kind of like it's on the short list, right? It maybe a little bit more towards the bottom when you look at Garlemald, Thavnir, Charlian, right? But it is, I think, on that list of
I'm on the island train with Charles. I
Hmm.
think, and please don't curse me for this, but I think we will get to go to all the islands, and then we're gonna get Garlemald in the capacity that we got Alamigo.
Damn it,
No,
Zen!
I don't want it.
No, Zenitra, don't curse us all
Bad.
with it.
I know.
Think about it. Do you really want to go to Garlemald?
Yes.
Do you really want to
Actually,
go?
Yes.
I actually super do. I love the combination of that sort of like Roman feel and like the 12 vibes, you know, from like the Legion
know what we
and the
didn't bring up?
technology.
What's that?
Cliff Turn or whatever it's called.
Turncliff.
Turncliff.
Yeah.
Cliff.
Turncliff, we
Rook
mentioned
literally
Turncliff.
mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, I did.
I
but
missed
that's
it.
okay,
My brain didn't focus. I'm sorry.
No, you're
No.
fine.
I
I
mean,
just get that you never listen to me and don't care about what
God.
I'm saying.
Wow.
So I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Actually,
but, see,
since I almost got up just now, I wanted to do my impression of Pook,
mhm.
Pook's prediction of where we're going. So check this out.
Oh God.
We're going to the moon.
Yeah.
That was,
I was
so
gonna
well
ask.
done. It was like Pook was with us
Oh,
on the
man.
podcast. Wow.
New World
Oh,
or Moon,
God.
which is less likely, right? New World or
New
Moon,
World.
if you had to bet.
Yes.
I think Moon is more
Yes.
likely.
Okay.
Just
I-
yes.
I think
Yeah.
Moon is
Just
I
yes.
think Moon.
Just
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the moon is, I mean, it sounds so ridiculous, but of course there is so much lore and so
Yeah.
much stuff backing why we would
Precedence,
go
yeah.
to the moon. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it is totally something that I could see actually happening. So there
That's
is
the
that.
battlefield with Fandaniel. The moon.
Yeah. I mean, I
Hmm.
think it's going to actually be a thing. I don't know how we're going to get there, but I could
But as
definitely see it.
Yoshida as Yoshida told us though in our E3 interview from a couple years back, who would give you quests on the moon?
Yeah. I just see it as a set piece, honestly. I see it as a set piece for Fandaniel and Lunar Bahamut. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing on the moon. This isn't the after years.
Mhm.
This isn't for the after years, so there's not
you
going
know,
to be
Woken
anything there.
Asians. Asians that don't want to murder us. That's who would give
I
us quests on the moon.
I could
Oh.
potentially see them maybe doing Moon as a final area,
Sure.
final zone, maybe.
Maybe. I
Mhm.
mean, if there were something up there, right? I mean, like, if there were, if it kind of like Amarat with that whole sort of reveal, like if there were parts of the ancient summonings, you know, like
Right.
city or something, or yeah, I could see it. I mean, otherwise, I do think Sly. I feel more like you are that it would be an epic set piece for maybe there's
Mhm.
like a little instance landing zone that you go into or
Oh,
something.
and you know
but I
what?
don't think.
Even though Fandaniel is not Asahi, he's in Asahi's body, who is related to Tsukiyomi,
Right.
who is also a lunar type thing. So
I
it's
see.
like a callback.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Wow.
Connecting
Okay.
those dots.
Wow.
I'm curious
was
too
an
if we're
accident.
gonna get something with the Void. I mean, with the
Mhm.
Void quest, with the other stuff they've been bulking up, I don't really think it's gonna pan out for this expansion specifically, but it does feel like something that they are setting up that I just wonder if we're gonna get a peek of it at any point
Right.
in the expansion, and then maybe like the next expansion would be more of like a void-based kind of thing, because it is interesting that they have continued to draw out and then also give importance to creating characters that are tied to the void, that, you know, did something with everything there. We know we still have the Crystal Tower, which has theoretically a portal to the void that could be possibly reactivated at some point. I mean, like, there's all these different things where I'm like, I don't think it's coming this expansion, but I don't know if they're gonna just sort of do a little something else for it leading up into future stuff.
It's hard, right? Because and we talked about this a little bit with our patch review and saying how they could have so, I think, easily and very well tied in that last snippet of Eden into the void, and they just didn't, which feels like such a missed opportunity. Obviously, there's still the void quest, right? I'm working on it. We'll get to those at some point here.
I believe in you. I have every faith.
Yeah.
It'll get done.
Yeah.
I have seen these cursed words in chat that I must now share. Orm Vale based expansion, which I would never want any of us to have to suffer ever.
You know what we call Orm Vale? Pea Palace.
New job.
I don't
New
wanna
job.
go.
Poopsmith.
Janitor.
Don't get out. No, absolutely not.
You just want your mop joke weapon. That's what you want. That's why you said janitor.
I mean, we could though feasibly go to.
Look how much you hurt Sly.
Yeah.
What is it actually called? I'm calling it the Underdark in my head, but is that right? Where the Duskwights are from? Darkhold.
Oh,
Darkhold.
no. Darkhold was the dungeon. God.
Galmora.
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 That would
I could
be
see
cool.
something with Galmora.
Chili's got it. Brown Mage from 11.
No, I don't want it.
For those that don't know, now that it's an 11 thing, and not a lot of people probably understand that reference, I need to explain this. So in 11, in Juno, there is a NPC that will remove your food buff. And if you are like, it's some outrageous number. If you're like the 1000th person to like do it every 1,000, or there's a couple different like number intervals, but you get like a title that's like brown magic byproduct, and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a brown mage.
I really did not know that.
So there you go. That is your fun fact for the day.
Huh.
I don't know how I feel.
Just go visit a Colibri.
Right.
Yeah, so I hope we don't get Brown Mage in the new expansion. I don't want it.
Look at your very serious face. Sly, oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, Sly, no, not Hope Mage I don't want.
Sly almost looks like he's taking a Brown Mage right now.
How dare you?
I give up. I give up on everything. I give up on everything.
I could see
How
go
did
more.
we get down this path?
I don't know.
Whoever talked about Orem Vale based expansion, Ancient Crystal in the chat, it's their fault.
Yeah.
All their fault.
Yeah, we have to give the attribution, you know.
No, Galmora would be interesting. That would be a different one. And I mean, thinking about Orem Vale though, I have been wondering if they will give us maps that are like expansions of even current areas, you know, like another map that would be something in Gridania, or another, you know, something that would expand and almost build on those zones that we already know if we're going to still be here. I mean, there's still so many places to explore that we haven't been to yet that I feel kind of, I don't know how everybody else feels. I feel kind of mixed about that, because on one hand, I do think it would be fun to have sort of these zones that are now coming back to like those familiar beginning places, but now are like end game zones, you know. I think that would be cool, but at the same time,
give us a labyrinth zone in the Shroud. Give us a 1.0 Korthus. Yeah. 1.0 Korthus would be my wish list for zone type for sure.
Oh yeah,
so good.
That kind of hinterlands, you know. Yeah, that'd be cool.
This is so good. Real quick here, like we said at the beginning of the show, we asked people for their predictions. A lot of them are in tune with what we said, but real quick here, Cam Barney from Twitter, as well as Dino Lockhart from our Discord, agree. Garlemald. Dino also thinks Charlayan. Pasta La Vista on our Discord is putting a vote in for Moon, and James Radcliffe on Twitter thinks Favner. So I think, personally, I am leaning towards, and I hate to think about having like two settings right after the Stormblood kind of back and forth weirdness, but I think Garlemald as our point of conflict, and then we'll visit Charlayan. And I think that could introduce a nice kind of like nature versus technology or magic versus technology theme, which could potentially, you know, flow into the jobs. We would, you know, maybe we see Mr. and Mrs. Levier. Right, yeah. Mom, Dad, how you doing?
Flip it around, and Garlemald's not actually evil, and Charlayan is.
I feel like if we go to Charlayan, we have to see their parents, right?
Oh, gotta see Mom and Dad.
I feel like we have to.
Oh yeah.
I've seen. I think even in some of these responses, somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody threw out like, you know, their dad's gonna be the new villain of Charlayan, who's like,
oh my gosh.
Like, well, I mean, it'd be interesting.
I just want them to show up and Alphino to be like, Mom, Alice pushed me into the Ruby Sea.
This is not something, and I mean, I don't even know where this would fit into the overall predictions. This is not something I think anybody else particularly cares about, but maybe, we'll see. I would love if this expansion, they aged. I would love it if like, Alice and Alphino, especially if we go to Charlian and they're like returning as adults, I would love to see them physically age to some degree.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and Azazel Husky in chat also said, Alize already hinted, like, where's our growth?
Mm-hmm.
And then they get literal like growth.
Yeah.
And they need new outfits because they outgrew them.
Yeah. Right. So the thing with 14, right? It's we always describe it as the Simpsons time bubble, right? Everything will forever be at just whatever time. But I think, you know, we've talked about this a little bit before, the idea of now with Shadowbringers and the idea of like a pre and post first visit, right? There kind of is that narrative separation of when things kind of take place.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that could be.
They've done time skips before.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw a sort of transformative thing with Grahatia and Crystal Exarch, and that sort of, you know, whole thing between. Granted, I mean, it's technically him coming back to the same model, but, you know, he's got his updated kind of thing. He's slightly different, the animations. Like, I think that they could, and it feels like it's time. It feels like those two have grown so much that, like, they don't need those babby models anymore. Like, grow them up a little bit, you know?
Sweet in the chat asking how much time has passed from 1.0 to post Shadowbringers. So, at the end of 1.0, Louis Suisse sends the Warriors of Light into that ethereal rift, right? We come out 5 years later. How much time has happened, you know, has occurred between then and now? I don't know. I don't know if we have.
A year or two?
Yeah, not long.
Yeah, they like they have mentioned that. I mean, like Slowpoke is saying in the chat, it's all been 1 year officially. Like there have been these sort of allusions, I believe, to, you know, it being a much shorter time span than most people would expect. And yet at the same time, there have been, as far as I know, other statements that have been like, time is just kind of.
You got to be careful with time. I mean, you know, and again, going back to an 11 reference, all of 11 takes place in 1 year,
which is insane.
That's a busy year. The world was almost destroyed several times in 1 year. But yeah, it's crazy. Any other area predictions here before we move into the next bit here?
No.
The Dragon Store. No, nothing.
No, I think we covered them.
We're just gonna go to another completely different planet. All right.
About those.
So next, these two, I guess, kind of go together, right? Major story beats, as well as road trip companion. Because there's always that
one?
NP. Well, there always is, though, right?
They usually try to focus on some of your friends.
They pull a couple characters out. So like Heaven's Word, we were hanging out with Alphino and Estinian. Stormblood, we were hanging out with Lise and Alice. Shadowbringers, we were kind of hanging out with everybody and Emmett.
Yeah.
And Reen. They introduced
and Reen.
And Crystal Exarch, who becomes, you know, pretty big there.
Yeah, we need a minivan now.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I definitely think we're going to get somebody. Well, actually, you know what? As I said that, I don't think we're going to get somebody new. I was like, we're going to get somebody that's going to be a new major player. But as it is, I think that with the new characters they've already introduced, it would almost make more sense to me for them to build on those. I mean, we have several that are possible connectors. I mean, we know that Estinian has been doing stuff in and out of Garlemald. So, like, logically, it would make sense for me if when we go to Garlemald, we are in contact with him. I mean, we also know that Gaius has been doing stuff there. But depending on what happens at the end of the Emerald, you know, weapon stuff, or sort of the weapon storyline in general, we don't know exactly where he's going to be at the end of all of this. So I don't know if he's going to be sort of like a major character there. We've talked a little bit as well about, and I every single time forget her name every single time.
Lucia.
Lucia, thank you. Lucia is another.
I just knew.
Every single time I forget it. Not that I think they've really poised her to be that, but I mean, she is technically from Garlemald and could do that.
I mean, look what they did with Graha.
I mean, yeah, you know, those all make sense for me. And when it comes to Charlian, I mean, it would make sense for Alphino and Alice. But I mean, granted, we have Cryo, we have Ishtola, we have all these other connections, and I do feel like we got a lot of Alphino Alice stuff in the past, in the past expansion with those like 2 different zones kind of devoted to their development and growth. So yeah, I mean, I personally would love to have Graha go on a real adventure with us. But again, he was a huge focus last X-Pack. But I mean, he is also connected to Sherlion, so I think it would make sense momentum-wise to bring him with on more of a adventure together. But I don't know. What does everybody else think?
I think if we do, I mean, he had a little snippet.
He was the first one to show up.
He was.
Well, so look, right? We had that little kind of a bit with him in the Warriors of Darkness, right? From Heaven's Word. Okay, we haven't really had a full on Urianger like road trip kind of a thing, right? That having been said, no, thank you. How many times has Urianger been like, sorry, I didn't tell you about this super important thing. I won't do it again. And then he's like immediately talking to Y'shtola. So it's like, yeah, so I think, guys, the Oracle of Darkness, we probably shouldn't tell him. Like, dude, I don't trust him enough to go on an adventure with him.
To be fair, in that case, he was wrong.
Yeah, he was. He was wrong. It's true, because we know from Eden that there isn't an Oracle of Darkness. She's not what that is,
Mm-hmm. But still, like, he's not always straightforward with us, and it's
That's
like
true.
I feel like that would end up being such a headache of a detriment, trying to do some stuff.
Though, that might be really interesting, especially when like looking at the overall environment of Sherlion. Like, if we are assuming that Sherlion is keeping some kind of information from us, or that they've discovered something that maybe they haven't shared with the world, since we know that they've kind of had this hands-off policy, right? I mean, I think that Urianger would be really interesting to have some discussions about that, and to like, in those moments, even explain to us as an individual why he held things from us, and like how possibly it relates back to this mentality in Sherlion. Plus, Boy needs to also deal with the whole Moonbrita thing, which like we've seen little snippets of, but like how gut-wrenching would it be to go back there and like people are asking about Moonbrita, and like,
I mean, surely they know by now. They have link pearls.
But like, I think that would be something for him that could be good growth. And I mean, Y'shtola also has this huge thing hanging over her head with the blindness and using, her Aether sight. Like, that's something that I have been waiting for them to like toll the bell on.
So they could, if they wanted to introduce Urianger, they could then counter that by also having Y'shtola, and that I would be okay with.
That's a good
you
pair.
will allow it.
It's a good pair. It's not really one that we've had, right? We usually we have them. They're present, but they show up in different parts.
They're paired off on the side, being like,
they're not like
a
they're not a constant. So that would be interesting. I think.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I want a road trip with the Smart Gang. I want Kryl. I want Urianger. I want Y'shtola. Like Alphino can be in the main hub, and we can talk to him when we do. That's fine.
Well, then what the hell is Tachiru gonna do?
I know he's dead, but people who've died before have come back, so Papalimo.
That would be cool.
Papalimo had a twin brother.
Oh my god.
My god.
I think if we're doing Garlemald, looking, we have Lucia, but I don't know narratively what else would make sense. They wouldn't want to introduce, like, is Xenos gonna turn good and we're gonna chill with Xenos? No. Get out! No, please no. I would rather have it just be me and Urianger than Xenos. I mean, us and Urianger.
But
me and
what
Urianger
about
just
all of our Xenos fanfics, though, man.
No. I would rather have an expansion of me and Urianger walking around and just be like, "Hast thou joined any fellowships lately?" I would rather have an expansion of that than having to like buddy up with Xenos.
What about the F word?
That was pretty brutal. That was a pretty brutal burn. If you've been keeping track of our feelings on both the fellowships and Xenos, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Xenos, especially now that he's not nearly as dummy thick as we all thought he was. I'm still not over this betrayal. He was so good the way that he was. I'm just saying, I appreciated. I appreciate everything. I'm just being honest. He had. I'm so sorry I've devolved our podcast into this.
That's fine.
He had a beautiful booty. And now that he has his new outfit, no booty. And I, myself personally, don't agree with this. I don't agree with it.
Xenos needs to get him some of them near raid pants.
He needs to be raid pants, and then maybe I'll consider him again. But no, all my jokes aside, it is kind of interesting with Garlemald because I think that's maybe where the most potential for a new character to come in might be, especially as we look for, new people to rise up to solidify the government of Garlemald, right? It's one of those things where in each of the expansions so far, we've had these figureheads that have kind of stepped in to stabilize. So, you have like Hien stepping in and reclaiming his throne. You've got even Raubahn and Lys who go back to solidify Alamigo. You have the figureheads of the states themselves. You have like these figures that usually are kind of like rising up. Emmerich in Ishgard that are like rising up to sort of take this place. But when it comes to Garlemald, I mean, is Gaius, our problem child, gonna? But a lot of us don't necessarily.
We also have Maximilian.
Maximus.
Oh,
Maximus.
Right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think maybe because I mean, he came to pick up Alphino for like, peace talks and stuff, so he's kind of up there ish, right? He's like up there adjacent.
That's what I was saying. He can be our buddy.
Yeah,
I like that guy.
I think foil wise, our main person who we're gonna deal with in Garlemald, in terms of the War of Succession, is Nerva. Like that'll be the one.
Yeah.
That'll be our main antagonist, so to speak, in Garlemald. He's the current head of House Brutus, I think. Yeah, like we'll definitely have some interaction with him. Maybe with Maximus as a mediary, or maybe that'll be
Secretary of State.
Maybe Alphino will take head on that one, seeing as he deals with things of political intrigue. As far like, I feel like it's basically, we have certain people will be tied to certain locations. Definitely Alphino and Alizé and Charlayan. Grahati as well, seeing as, he like things of history and note he wants to learn about, and of course Charlayan would be great for him. Where else? Matoya. Yeah, the whole lingering thing with Matoya and Y'shtola. I'm under the mind Matoya's not going to make it to 6.0. And that to save a piece of Y'shtola, even like maybe her vision, Matoya becomes part of Y'shtola, and like Y'shtola becomes Matoya again.
So they do the fusion dance, and right before they do it, Matoya makes some quip about how like, you said you were Matoya anyway, and then just like,
yeah, exactly.
I love that.
I mean, yeah, I could see Matoya dying. I mean, they have set a lot up, I think, and especially even with like this recent dungeon, going back to visit her, the discussion about the relationship between Y'shtola and Matoya, and then as well, like you were saying, those sort of allusions to the title that she took back, on the first. I do think that could be something, whether it happens during the expansion or like prior to the expansion. I could absolutely see. Yeah.
Oh, so Pook is pointing out Matoya's voice actress recently passed.
Oh,
I had not heard that.
Really? No, the
so
latest one
5.4 was a new person. I think obviously I don't know the case around it from Sid, but Sid's voice was very different as well. In this,
I haven't heard Sid in a long ass time.
I think they actually did something in memoriam, if I'm remembering, with her lines, or there was something that they did with the writing to acknowledge that she had passed, the original voice actress, and they sort of put it in there as a little nod. I don't remember what the exact
acronym somewhere. I don't know. I'm bad at acronyms, so I forgot already.
Okay. Let's see.
I don't. Even though I guess maybe it might be a little harsh, I don't think they'll avoid that particular story beat because of that.
Yeah, I don't think
no.
So
If they've been steering it in a certain direction, they'll do it.
I'm gonna bring up the one dark horse that I hope shows up. I don't know why really. Is Fordola. I want to see her get back at Garlemald. I want that to be part of the. I want to see some revenge, and we have to rein it in. Like, I would love to see that from Alamigo soldiers. Like, because going too far is not okay either, right? You can't become Garlemald, and I would love that beat. And Fordola is kind of involved. She's off fighting primals and such. So I'd love to see her go ham in Garlemald. I'd love to see it.
I totally agree. Yes, yes. And I mean, she's a great voice for the fact that like Garlemald at this point is not just the Legion as we know, right? Like it is a conglomerate of peoples that because of the imperial rule and because of this invasion and the way that they have conscripted people, which we're also seeing in the weapons storyline, right? Those people and those groups have become a part of this culture. And Fordola is so amazing in that regard because we see her confront, both why she tried to become a part of Garlemald, even though she herself was Alamigan, but also, the fact that she betrayed her own people and like what that means and what the future looks like for people who are now somewhere in between in the cultural, mesh of these, countries that have been under imperial rule for some of them for quite a long time, like that changes people. Right. And you're right. I think she would be a great voice for that.
Make Stormblood worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Bring us some more.
I don't actually feel that severely about Stormblood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change up our outline a little bit to make the flow a little bit better. So, with story stuff, right? What do you want to see for raids? In 6.0.
Oh, sorry.
That hurts. That ouch.
Sorry.
Oh, this is hard because I mean we don't know. We don't know what the combination will be.
I would like to see no collaborations. no near raid. If you're gonna do it evilly style, right? Something that's kind of already we know exists, not just like, hey, like spaceships and robots and stuff. No, don't do that. What I would love to see is something very entwined with MSQ, like Bahamut, style, right? Something that really, and we've
Binding Coil of Lunar Bahamut.
Oh no,
go stop.
Because we're going to climate.
I would like to see, and we had this in the poem too, stuff about underground, right? I want to go down into Silver Tier.
Silver Tier, yeah.
I want to address the presence of Silver Tier. I want to address the Primal Explosion. We've gotten a lot of great answers out of Shadowbringers for stuff. There's still a few more lingering questions. That's one of them. I think they could do that as an 8-man.
I'm seeing in like Slowpoke saying in the chat Midgar for 24-man, which I do think that if we had some kind of collaboration, this is what I was just thinking, that it might be the 7. It might be the 7 collab.
No.
And part of that too seems to me like it could work because the sort of technological themes with Garlemald and with some of the stuff with 7. That's not to say that I particularly am dying for that or want that. I mean, I think I'm much more in agreement with you, Fusion, in that the 24-mans, they have pretty clearly, I think, made collaboration opportunities, which is good and bad sometimes. I mean, it would be, I think 7 would be kind of logical with some of the timing stuff, but at the same time, I do like it when they do feel more robustly integrated into the world and like how things are kind of going. And the near raid has felt very detached, and we've talked about it a bunch with other reviews and things. So like I'm torn with stuff there. I see that Sweet says in chat Chrono Trigger, which would be my dream collaboration, which will never happen.
Oh yeah.
But would I die for a Chrono Trigger 24-man? Yes. And do I think they could do some really cool stuff with it? Yes. It'd be so good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, when you said 7, I immediately thought, okay, let's just put 7 in Garlemald. Let's throw Shinra out. Like Fort Condor, Junon. Like
Mako is now Ceruleum.
Right.
Look,
to an extent, it could work, right?
Yeah. As much as I gave Eden crap for being more of indirect references to 8 rather than here's some stuff from 8. I think that actually might be a good way to go if we go to Garlemald.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, I would like to save a sector of citizens from the roof of the sector falling on them.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I mean, I've been really enjoying the 7 remake, so I mean, I'm expecting at some point they will do some sort of event or collab, and that could be a spot. It could be. They could also go totally wild and do something with, I don't think they would, but they could do something with 16 and like a bit of an integration there since Yoshida is working on both.
Yoshi P collab with Yoshi P.
That would be great.
Well, I mean, it is. I think it's supposed to be out this year, right? And then Project Althea, I think, is 2022.
I think that's it.
I think that's what they has been said. So I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know about the 8-man though. Like that one's so much harder for me. I would like it to be MSQ related. I mean, we got a return to that with Shadowbringers, and again, the overall writing, as we critiqued, like there were parts of the raids that I really enjoyed, and I actually really liked the fights from this last year. But the overall story, I felt could have been more strongly communicated and written. Right? We've discussed that.
I think it's.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's probably a point to make right now, just with the state of the world, right? Any kind of outside collab would probably be much more difficult now. You know, if you need to communicate with, you know, an outside company or something like that. Like, you know, I don't know what, but I mean, yeah, Nier technically is, right? It's Square Enix, but the more kind of in the same, you know, Teams chat, you know, it is, right? The easier it's going to be, you know, having to schedule stuff outside of that kind of ecosystem is going to make things a lot more challenging. So I would rather see original stuff. And if they need to borrow some influences, absolutely do it, you know.
Give us some themes, you know. Like,
but then again, I'll fully admit on the other side of that, you know, the fact that we like didn't get like Griever or Ultimisia right in Eden, it's like, well, what the hell, you know? Give us original content. Where's the staple villain from 8? You know.
We got so used to the fan servicey stuff, and we expected it, and so we were disappointed when we didn't get to see those things that we specifically were very excited about.
Right.
People who aren't as into 8 as we are probably were like, whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't care as much as we do, which is totally fine and totally valid. But I think it is weird because Eden did feel like it was going to be a new one, unique one. You know, like this was not going to be a whole bunch of, you know, callbacks and things. But then there was that 8 influence that they made clear, but then like didn't quite use. And then they did reuse a ton of the previous bosses and, you know, do these like savage things. I think if there's anything that I would like from a new 8-man raid, right? It would be for it to be wholly new, like new enemies that aren't like illusions of other enemies or computer programs or the memory you had of a thing. I would like them to be tangible, real enemies. I was really hoping with the Eden raid that we would get like more light wardens or sin eaters or something that had been hidden out there, you know, and we'd be fighting through them. So I think I'd like to see them use some of those really cool designs, that really amazing, you know, design team that they have to create something wholly unique that is connected to the story for me with the 8-man. And because of that, I can't really say what it would be because we don't know yet what the story is totally, but
I could see them throwing a random Garlean, you know, research center and we have to fight through things that they made, or you know,
and I've thought about that.
Be okay with that.
Yeah,
it would make sense, but you also have to be really careful about each raid looking to like samey, right? If you're doing that, like if we're going into Garlemald, yeah, they could have a 24 Alliance raid that's just castrums, but at what point is this like, this looks too much like the other one?
I mean, wasn't that the issue with Crystal Tower though?
Yeah.
At certain points, Crystal Tower did get a little bit samey, but I mean, I enjoyed Crystal Tower for what it was. Again, in regards to the 24-man, I agree. Like I think like we kind of need to steer away from the whole, you know, drawing from you know other things like Nier, or I mean, well, Chrono Trigger would be nice. Like I've given up completely on on interaction between companies, and like, hey Sly, what about SMT? No, don't put SMT in 14, please, no, dear God.
No.
So look, so we're gonna do a Persona 5 collaboration. There's gonna be a high school in Garlemald, and
nope.
But see here, at least here you could use the near defense, but the music is so good.
I mean, look, they could set it in a school in Charlion.
No.
And
the studium.
Then we have to date the characters.
Personas are new eggies for Summoner.
No.
Oh my God.
Never.
Now Charles is saying no also.
I was saying no. Because first of all, we said SMT, not Persona.
Yeah.
No, I said Persona.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're just ignoring that then. Okay.
So it's just really hard, and I have a question.
But even
Okay.
No, go ahead. If you're not done, go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, even still, like, I feel like in terms of 24 men, we should draw upon our own, our own set pieces, our own lore.
Yeah.
Like Crystal Tower, like the Void Quest or Void Arc, excuse me. Ivalice. Draw up on our own lore. Draw up on things that are currently going on around us.
They could almost do a sequel to Ivalice, really. I mean,
I don't know.
It depends on what happens with Boja, but
absolutely, yeah, it depends on what happens with Gabranth and everything. I could see it. 8-man, I agree. Like, new stuff. While we love the fan service, everybody loves fan service. We love seeing old fights or reimagined, so to speak. Give us new stuff. Give us like new. We say this every expansion, but
yeah,
new mechanics, new things, new pretty things to stare at that are going to kill us. Like new markers. Like we just want new. We always like new stuff. We're the internet. We hate change, but we
demand it.
We hate change, but we demand it. Exactly. But as far as like a story piece that's kind of connected to MSQ, because that's essentially what we want. The only thing I could see possibly is, again, going back to the one legion that took out whatever that was near Garlemald on the map.
Yeah.
So there might be more icons or more primals that we don't know about.
So that is another talking about trying to answers to questions we've had for a while. We still don't know what that first primal was that Garlemald encountered when they came into Eor's Gate. They could tie that in that as well.
It's a sandworm. The crossover is Dune.
They could totally do that. I think that would be a really cool.
I got two of you.
No more.
Okay, so here's my question.
With guest collaborator David Lynch.
Oh, precisely.
That would be a trippy. Yeah.
How many towers are there?
Towers.
Yeah, the
3.4 towers.
Purple tower guys. Are there 12?
Lenosia, no.
Okay.
There's Lenosia, the Locks, Yangsha,
the Locks,
Thanolin.
If there aren't 12, the thing I'm getting at here is
there's at least 4.
Okay. Originally we went to big pieces of Dalamud and went into the binding coil, right? If there were like 12 towers, that's 1 per each turn of the raid.
Okay.
Yeah. I can see that.
So each turn would be trying to take out a tower, and it's connected to something somewhere that you have to take out.
Right.
Yeah, that could make sense. It would be interesting to see how they dealt with that.
If there's 4, right? We haven't talked about trials.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, what I would love for the paradigm to be, and I know we hate formulas and things like that. We hate change, but we demand it. I think that's I don't think
the title of the episode.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
But fighting those icons would be amazing. Like, just bring in, and you could bring in a little bit, but I think that what I would like to see is the trials be the fan fiction, right? Bring in the stuff for the trials because they're one and done anyway. You don't have to really worry about that. Kind of like the Warring Triad, you know,
the
something
fan
new
fiction.
for the 8-man and something crazy for the 24-man. If they could like keep that, that'd be kind of cool.
I mean, they could. I mean, I think it could be cool to do, like, you know, we've talked about the idea of, like, you know, 2.0 was like the primals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't 6.0 be the icons, right? Still, yes, technically the same thing, but kind of a different tier. We've answered that question of the first encountered primal. Maybe it addresses whatever that big weird hulking thing was in the on the map.
I mean, it would directly tie into the one thing I'm going to say that I want about the trailer, and that's just a tease. We'll talk about it at some point.
Yep.
I mean, we also, so when you were discussing earlier the idea of the, like, going down into the earth, right? And whatever this thing was, or this sound, or whatever it is, we don't really know yet if it was actually an entity, a thing, or if it is something else, right? Like, it could be super ambiguous for all we know. It could be some coalescence of, like, human suffering. I don't know. I have no idea what this thing could be. But they could do something there too, I guess. I don't know. That seems like it would be more raidy to me, but at the same time, like, I think kind of like I was not expecting for them at all to put the Light Wardens as dungeon bosses.
Right.
They could do something with trials where those trial lines, as opposed to being sort of a side questy sort of thing that we get, are something that is like, yeah, these are going to be these fights that you have with these big, you know, entities, or these things that are rising up, or whatever it is. So they could do something like that.
No, I mean, you know, thinking about, you know, 2.0, I don't think they would go back to having 3 difficulties for the same fight, right? But, I mean, Titan, Ifrit, I mean, they were part of that MSQ in 2.0. So, you know, I don't see why they wouldn't, right? Just with the way that the game is, you know, expansion on expansion, you have to do the first. You know, at that point at 6.0, I think, yeah, you could up the difficulty just a smidge, right? And make people have to match into a trial for, you know, I mean, they have a couple trials anyway in MSQ, but why not add whatever the trial series is into that as well? The more things connected to the MSQ, the better it's going to make everything.
Yeah. Granted, it does seem like they're trying to solidify trials as being something that is almost like an indicative side plot line that then will build into something else later. Like, I never thought they'd put the Warring Triad into whatever future narrative that they're doing, but Anukulai has stuck around. The Void Quests got tied to them. Now they're a prerequisite for other stuff. So it could be that those trials are something looking forward even. So if we're thinking Void in the future, it could be something like that. Or if this other entity outside of Heidel and Zodiark, or whatever it could be something there. I mean, there's so many different possibilities. I see people in the chat even saying, like, Lavos, Geneva, Guardian Forces. Like, there's so many possibilities. I just hope that they are. I mean, if we're recreating the End of Days, I mean, I guess in theory it could also be something where it plays into that, or, you know, the fears of people are being coalesced, be it in the raid set, or even, you know, with the
silly idea.
Trials. Huh.
What if we go back to Ascians? There are a lot of them. We could fight like shades of them if we're going back to End of Days.
Well, you think about that though, and then it reminds me of the end of like 5.3, where they're like, yeah, we fought a bunch of like lesser Ascians, and you don't even see them. It's just like a one-off comment. They're like, yeah, there were some, but whatever. Like,
but they're masked. Here they are.
Yeah, it's just like Thinker's like, yeah, we fought a bunch, like whatever. They sucked. Like, nobody cares. Like, it's, I don't know. To then, like, all of a sudden they're like important. I don't know.
Now I kind of want to see guys take out Fandaniel. Being honest, just add that mask right onto his belt.
That would be cool.
It'd be cathartic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. I mean, but I also feel deeply conflicted about killing them now because of the things we know.
Yeah.
I mean,
not Fandaniel. Screw that guy.
That's the beauty of how well written Shadowbringers was, right?
I know.
It makes you feel guilt for the bad guys.
I mean, they could do something totally wild where this is so out there. But I love that we've gotten more stuff about kind of who we were. And if they do, for whatever reason, keep going with, like, you know, reuniting the shards of who we are, things like that, or if one of the Ascians found the other shards of ourselves, and then we had to defeat them and like reabsorb them, and like they corrupted them, and then we had to fight them. That'd be kind of interesting. I mean, there's so many things they could do if they.
I'm picturing like some weird like Terminator-esque story where now you gotta like go back in time by going to like an adjacent shard and like stopping the Ascians from killing like your other shard self and like Terminator raid. Let's go.
Let's do it.
God.
All right. So let's move on. Let's just jobs. Let's do jobs. This is the big one. This is the one everybody wants to know. I think the big one, right? That's on everybody's list, right? Apothecary or chemist. We've got Sweetleaf, Garu, John. Everybody's thinking apothecary or chemist. They mentioned it. You know, the little girl in the Crystarium. Even though, I guess real quick before we get, are we going back to the first in 6.0?
I don't think so.
I would think there would be reasons.
I don't think so either.
First, I mean,
but I just
I mean, maybe as a continuation of the Void quest, that would be absolutely amazing.
Okay.
Every now and then, maybe kind of like it's like, well, we gotta head over to hang out with Heian for a second. We gotta head over with Reen for a second, you know.
Mm.
I feel like they wouldn't just make us go to the first and then leave that as like a completely unused asset. Like we still have connections there. We still have people there. There are still things happening on the first. So I don't think it's like, hey, like 6.0, we're just not messing with the first. Like there's still going to be things going on. There's still going to be reasons to go there.
I mean, they did leave that kind of little drop of like Gaia could maybe come to the source.
I mean,
you know.
That was a strong connection there, especially when dealing with the Ascians and things.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's knowledge that the first has that we don't on the source. So seeing that we're the only, like, besides Gaia, we're the only bridge between that, like there would be a little bit of fetch back and forth between the first and the source. So I can see that's one way they could kind of utilize it. But yeah, they're not going to totally throw away the first.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I want to talk about more is the aftermath of these patches on the first. Are you going to tell me that no one okay, what are these golden things coming out of the ground fighting everyone?
In all honesty, that's why I'm excited for more Hildebrand.
Sure.
Because Hildebrand was one of them.
You know, they have had the sky came back, right? The sky came back. All sorts of things went crazy. They saw star showers all over the place, right? Then people came out of the ground and started fighting. And then, like, you know, like what? And then what happened then? Nobody knows. Like, we got to talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like as a larger device, and like, granted, this is something that we just have to kind of see how it pans out, because Apothecary was set up on the first, and it would make sense for what's the woman's name who heads things up there? She has, I think, a French name.
I don't
remember. She's like the woman that runs the healing ward.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
though.
I would have to look at the D&D notes.
Well, the other consideration though too is all the new jobs are going to be in those first 3 city states, right? So I mean, not that Apothecary is like this brand new emerging, you know, thing, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's something that,
yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's like it's
You did it.
chose to set things up almost there. I mean, obviously it makes sense, and I think it's an art form that would be applicable anywhere. I mean, there's even that woman who seems to be an apothecary that has been healing the forces in Ralger's Reach. You know, we deal with her in a few quests and things. So, like, there's obviously people that I think could be trainers that would have this knowledge. But I've always kind of wondered if the question has always been to either unite the worlds or leave them separate. And yet we've started discovering that there are ways to travel between them. And Y'shtola herself says, I will find a way that we can make this more accessible. Like, is it not feasible that in the future, the ideal solution would be to reclaim all of the different worlds somehow and be able to travel freely between them and still exist and coexist? I mean, like, if we're not going to just smush everybody back together, it seems like now that we've opened those channels, having something like that would not be a bad thing. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if they have something bigger in mind, but with what they've dropped so far, I wouldn't be surprised if that theme of like being able to find some way to travel or going back and forth or even using the Crystal Tower, right, is something that continues and does bring us back and forth, even as we get information, but like on a larger scale, allowing other people to go back and forth without all of this, like, and then I abandoned my body and then I might die. And then I like...
Well, you know, Rook, I want to ask, because, you know, I don't heal. I know Zen, you heal as well. What does healing need? Like, what would an apothecary do? Like, do you need more shield healers? Do you need more regen healers? Like, what?
If I can interject real quick before we get into that,
sure.
One of the big things with Shadowbringers was, okay, we have a tank, but why is the other one not a healer? Right. And they said because we need to rebalance healers. So what we have as healers now may not be what healers are in 6.0.
Right.
Because if they do add a new healer, that means they need to kind of reinforce the identity of each of those healers then.
Right. And that's what I'm asking. Like, what other paradigms are there that would make sense? You know, the attack to heal, the debuff the enemy and people heal by hitting it. You know what I mean?
Here, I don't know if they would do an attack to heal though. With the way that back and forth discussion that they've always had with healers, right? Yes, they're healers, but they also do damage. Yeah, but they're healers. You know, so I don't know.
The problem is that, and this is a whole discussion. You're right. I think that right now, as it is, with the things that we have to deal with bosses, right? They have taken away almost every other nuanced support ability. So damage up is basically the thing now, or mitigating incoming damage in some way, shape, or form. Like, those are the two main things that we are primarily seeing being used as a utility in the game currently, since synergies were removed and then the flexibility of buffs and astrologian were removed. And in many ways, the fights as they are now don't call for a ton of other utility, and or like balancing the cards seemed to be something that was so hard for them for so long that, again, it's like those niches of different utilities that they provided, it was a big issue. Right off the top of my head, my two answers would be damage to heal and some kind of true buffer debuffer. But with the way that things are currently, with how the fights are set up, with how those support functionalities are set up, I don't know if either of them would really work. Because like you said, if you have an attack healer, right? In theory, the idea would be that like you get to do more damage and then you get to heal as well. But the big thing that we've seen reinforced continually, even in DPS, it's always a trade-off between utility and damage. So if you have a healer that can heal just as well as the others, but does more damage, it is always going to be meta. People are always going to bring it with. So the problem with that then is like, well, then we need to kind of, I guess, come up with a class that would have a playstyle similar to a melee, really wouldn't do that much more damage than the other healers, but would be able to heal, and it would maybe be more fun from a playstyle perspective for people who like, more like DPS oriented, or, that kind of action or that feel to attack and then get heals. But again, it wouldn't be truly like you were playing a DPS healer, right? Like, it just wouldn't be.
We already have sorry, if you're not done, go ahead.
No, you got Zen, jump in.
We already have an issue, I feel, where we're trying to make enough space around the boss for both tanks and both theoretical melee DPS to hit. So if they added a healer that also needs to hit the boss, one of those people is going to lose.
As somebody that has been a machinist main, coming from a Dragoon main, the idea of uptime strats annoys the hell out of me, and I never want to have to deal with that.
As a summoner,
as somebody who has to get the hell out of your way.
Yeah.
Pook in the chat, and I've had this idea too. Healer guns.
No, that's actually the other thing I want to say. If it is something that's chemist-ish related, which I really hope it is, I could see them kind of going the Astro route with it, where you mix your potion and you give some sort of kind of smallish damage buff, maybe give them an MP regen, which would really piss me off as a Bard style class. Things like that. Or and then the other thing is, I kind of want to see a puddle healer, not gonna lie, especially if it's a chemist. Just break a potion on the ground, there's the puddle standing in it.
You want to know what my issue is with damage buffs and everything?
Oh, please. I think I have the same.
Remember when Astro actually had stuff that did everything,
Yeah, we remember. We miss
balance?
it.
We miss it.
Yeah.
We're so sad and angry.
Okay. But then again, there are people who were like, wait, Astro only has one good card. We don't need the other cards, and now all the cards pretty much do the same thing and have no variety.
I hate that because
So,
go ahead. Sorry. Please
go
continue.
ahead.
I have very many feelings on this topic.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You can tell what job Rook plays.
Yeah.
Astro was my main in Stormblood, and I have voiced these opinions, right? And I totally agree in that the environment that is created by the idea of like meta setting the precedent always sometimes does, it may be more, yes, maybe it is more useful when holding it up against that kind of metric. But from a playstyle standpoint, it robs you of the ability to choose and make decisions. Like you can pick who you're going to put a card on. But for me, my favorite classes are the ones that I have to think creatively while playing. Like, what am I going to do to line this up? And then maybe this will mitigate that. And then this will do that. And then if I play this right, I can give back mana to that person who died. And then I can do, like, that is what makes it fun for me. And I agree with you, Zen, in that I hope that Apothecary is kind of like Riku, or that it's something where it is like Mudras with Ninja almost more so, where it is like mix these different things. And then Puddles would be super fun, although of course then people would complain about them not having the same mobility and range and blah blah blah.
Well, you know, and as soon as you said Puddles, I'm like, that's cool, but nobody's gonna remember to stand in them.
Well, but like, yeah, I mean,
they will. If you yell enough, they will.
But it's like, I would love that. We talked a little bit on my own stream because we were brainstorming this exact same dilemma about possibly doing something like reverse red mage, where because of that melee spot competition, right? Maybe you, rather than mostly being ranged and then having a burst window where you come in for melee, maybe you are melee, but then you have a burst window where you're at range. And so like for those mechanics, if the timings were right, like when it came to positioning for things, you could step out to take a range spot and do some sort of combo or something like that. I mean, I think they could. It's just that they could also overhaul a lot of the designs of fights. Like, I mean, they could add another spot for you to stand. Now, would that completely change all of the... Yeah, would that maybe be fun? Sure. It is one of these things where I think we are at the most balanced spot right now, but I think that some of the fun and the choice making of classes has been removed a little bit to even the playing field. And I don't want to see Apothecary be that. And I don't want to see Ninja lose its Mudras and things either, because that's so fun to me. So
I'm stuck on the idea of healing guns now. Because you know, Sortor had that as a I think it was a bounty hunter build. You could heal with your guns. You could just shoot people and heal them. I love that.
See, I know that we are as close as we've ever been as far as balance DPS wise in the ways that we can measure that. You know, with just our eye. Yeah, exactly right. But I don't think we actually are balanced. I think that we are balanced when you have buffs. When you are the person who gets the buffs, you do enough damage to be balanced with the other classes. If you don't, you will not, period. And that is the thing that I hate. I hate this zero-sum game of buffs that has begun. Because if literally giving someone a buff is not giving it to someone else, right? And I hate that. It really tends to suck. So that's why they are like, well, we don't want support classes. Well, why don't you think about how they support, right? Stop making it a zero-sum game. And that's what
I will never forget the media tour, the Shadowbringers media tour. They come up on the slide and they basically say, so yeah, Bard and Machinist aren't going to have like any support because we're going to focus on Dancer for support. And we're just like, what?
I was
like,
so mad.
How is this a decision that you decided to make?
It's like if they had said we are actually going to change Bard and it will become Ranger and it will be all about you shooting arrows, that would have been fine. Like, honestly, if they separated those two out and we ended up getting some kind of support category at some point in the future, however that would happen, and they did Bard and you had an instrument and you did support and then we had Ranger, and like, if they separated them, I'd even be fine with that. But it was utterly baffling to me.
It's like
they were like
Dancer, the new job that everybody is already going to play anyway, is now the only support. Like,
it was wild. It sucked so bad. And like, even if they had just made it so that Bard was the only class that had mana regen, like that would have even been
that
something.
hurts me so much. I just that like Brooke was saying earlier,
back in my day, we had two types of turrets.
When you play a job because it's a little bit more complicated, and I always talk about that sparkly feeling in my brain. Bard used to have a couple other things it did. Like I had to watch everybody's MP to make sure that they were all good. Don't have to do that anymore. On Dancer, I don't even have to do dots. It is very straightforward. And I kind of miss that little extra tidbit of complexity where I'm like, okay, I did all my stuff. Is everybody good on the party list? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. That's another thing I was going to say too is it's actually not a very nice comment, but if we do get a healer like Chemist, it would not be apart from the norm where the new job totally screws out a very specific old job.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
so it'd be like, oh, and we got Chemists, and they can buff everybody,
so
and also screw you, astrologer.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? Because especially in regards to tank and healer, right? They really want to make that new job something that people want to play, right? Gunbreaker, I don't tank, but ooh, Gunbreaker, I'll try that, right? Because they need more tanks and more healers in the queues, and so doing that, but then maybe alienating a different, another tank or healer in the process. It's like,
yeah, it's interesting with Apothecary because I really don't see it, at least as far as we know. It depends on what buffs and things they give to it, right? If they do, or what else it does. But like, in theory, just envisioning it, if they don't go too wild with it, because I mean, like some of the stuff Riku could do or other Final Fantasy chemists can do is pretty insane. Like, if you do this exact thing, or you get this one weird mix, or like stuff like that, but if it's in line, I think it'll probably be about the same as the other healers. Again, because we have come down to heal over time, shield, or flex, which has kind of become the thing that has presented a bit of a problem. Outside of Apothecary, which I don't really think is going to rock the boat that much. Maybe they'll totally surprise me, which I would love. But like, if they did something else, like going back to that question earlier where you were like, what kinds of healers looking forward could we need or want? I would love to get a true buffer again. And I would like it to be something, I mean, Time Mage has been tossed around and stuff like that. But, we were discussing like being able to unwind time on damage, or, like something where even applying haste to the party, or being able to use, like the speed boost from Bard, but actually in combat for your party, or like
as soon as you add haste, that job becomes the meta.
And that's like
that's the problem.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where, for me, that's what I would like, and it is a category of healer or a support that could work. That damage healer is another one. What else? We're just thinking like thematically. We don't have a lot of, we've got caster healers. We don't have a lot of physical healers. So something in there too. But it is tough. And somebody said the other day, like, well, if healers stay where they are right now, is there even any need to like add more healers in the future? Right. And I was like, I personally would be deeply upset if more healers.
People, we already have a shortage of people who want to play healer. They have to give healers something new, or less people are going to play. They're going to be like, I've had a taste of all of these jobs. I'm tired of them. I'm going to try something else.
I mean, they got me a little bit with Tank and Gunbreaker. If they had a gun healer, I might try that.
Wow. Do you have a specific type of role you like to play?
Yeah.
DPS.
And not, Final Fantasy role. Weapon.
No.
There's also always talk of Geomancer in ways.
Yeah.
I don't know. That to me feels more like a ranged caster, which, I guess, do we want to talk about the DPS job?
It's already canon. It's already in the game, though.
Yeah, it is.
It is already in the
Astro.
game.
I see.
It's Earth Astro, basically.
That's true.
But that doesn't mean they couldn't change up the spells to do other things.
I mean, melee healer, you have a hammer. Like, it could be cool.
I mean, you could do something almost like an elementalist, right?
Yes,
where if you're like cracking that hammer down, it's doing some like there's an earth effect that like
hammer cannon,
or, like produces damage, or have that like bit of an elementalist feel to it. But I mean, they did say they weren't going to do Geomancer as a specific class, but that's not the first time.
And then they invited Nomura on, and he designed a hammer, and they're like, but nobody has a hammer, so now they have a hammer, and maybe it's
I personally love the idea of them using bells more, especially
same.
because those like spirits in the geomancy wing as you go through ring those bells. Like
Bellhammer.
It'd be so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, Bellhammer.
But
gun bell.
Also glaive. We saw Ida with a glaive, and we can even have that glaive, but nobody actually uses the glaive or a scythe or whatever.
Yeah. Pascal's on Twitter mentioned the idea of a glaive, maybe something to tie into or reference like 15 lore. Something that shares maiming gear. I've actually seen a few comments talking about something that shares maiming gear.
That makes the most sense to me.
That I think that would be nice. Just coming from the from somebody that I have a bunch of range stuff leveled, and I can just reuse all that gear. It's really nice. But for Dragoon, it's like that's it. That's the one set. You have the one job.
That's the one job.
That having been said, I think if we are going to get a new DPS, I would be very surprised if it's melee.
It's their turn.
Is it?
Is it?
Is it?
Is it?
Like, as a melee, I have to ask, is it?
I mean, I don't personally feel like we need another melee because we've always had the most of them.
Yeah.
So look at what we have right now.
Yeah.
We have Dragoon, we have Monk, Samurai, and Ninja. Okay. For melee. For ranged, you have Machinist, Bard, and Dancer. For caster, you've got Black Mage, Red Mage, and Summoner. So those ranged ones only have 3, whereas the melee have 4. We just got Dancer, which was a ranged physical. So now I would think caster.
Ninja's a little flex. However, what I'm sort of getting at here, and by turn, is that is it Ninja the first? Well, Summoner when they split it, I guess, and then Ninja, and then what?
Then
we
the
got
3 from Heavensward.
Yeah, tank, a healer, and a ranged. Then we got a caster and
a melee. Samurai.
Okay, then I'm wrong. I forgot about Samurai.
Yeah.
Caster would be. I mean, I would want a caster more right now. I feel personally, it's tough because they kind of got into this idea of these subset of classes that they all need to be equal. So like we need to have a new support ranged because that one needs to have the same number. But then when I see people splitting the melee into even more subcategories, I'm like, I don't want to see them added into the rotation as each set of gear, but I do think it is weird that they don't share more gear. Like, which obviously because of the substats and thing, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, rather than treating these as like multiple different categories of melee, I mean, melee DPS to me, you're going to pretty much be playing melee DPS, like no matter what.
They should, going ahead, just take striking and scouting and shove it into the same thing, and then maiming can just...
They already separated it.
So weird.
When Ninja came in, it was using striking gear. But no, now that you've reminded me that we did get Samurai, how does one forget Samurai? I am not sure.
I mean, I didn't.
Try to.
That's probably it.
I can't.
I try to forget Samurai.
Rune Knight being mentioned, which I think could be a really interesting, if we're gonna put it in spellcaster category or caster, I think that could be super neat. Like, do something a little different with that.
Now that I've been reminded about Samurai, I'm definitely on the caster train. That makes way more sense. We Blue Mage doesn't count. Straight up, Blue Mage doesn't count.
No.
And but also the way we're talking about healers and like, do we need another one? It's kind of like they haven't. Okay, I'm. Please forgive me for anything that I say about casters because I know how you feel. I feel like the casters have the most issues right now. They are the most just tangled and weird, and they need to fix what they have. Is adding another going to make it worse?
That's
well.
What I
adding another might make them focus down and fix it.
See, what I think is we're getting a new caster. It's called Summoner.
I mean, I've been thinking that Summoner might get the Machinist treatment.
And we're getting a new healer. It's called Scholar because they're going to separate it. You hear me, Square Enix? You're going to separate it. That's my demand.
It's happening. It's finally happening.
I don't understand why it's still the way it is. It does not make any sense with their current design. It has to change.
You better level a Scholar quick if you want to level a Summoner.
Yeah,
I'm working on it. Why does everybody keep bugging me? I'm working on it, okay?
That would make so much sense, though, because I've heard a lot of people talk about what's the new healer we're going to get. Because we're all pretty sure it's going to be healer. Then what's the new DPS that we're going to get? And then which class is going to get the overhaul? Yeah. And I really do think, personally,
we get 2 new melees, and then they just revamp Summoner and Scholar.
Oh my god.
Like, Summoner and Scholar, though, I do feel like need a rework. Even if they can function fine, I do feel like their themes and the realization of what they do, and like, it all feels so bizarre. Like, the fact that Scholar is a pet class, but your fairies are basically just skins is the weirdest. Like, why is that even a thing? Just from like a conceptual standpoint, if you're explaining to somebody like, yeah, and the fun of this class theoretically is that you have these different pets and they do different things, so you gotta pull them out at different times and do it like you would in any pet class in any MMO. The fact that people always say with Scholar, like, yeah, it doesn't matter which one you have.
So originally for my leveling, I was like, I'll level Scholar, that way I get a little bit more familiar with the healing stuff, right? But then I get in there and I'm like, okay, so Celine, Eos, what are we doing? What's the meta these days? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, okay.
Which one do you think is
Summoner.
cuter?
Yeah, I'm just gonna level it up on Summoner. Like, it's just
It's so weird, and it feels like their niche has just been like more and more diminished, which was necessary in some areas, but like it's so odd. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not like either of them don't work, but because they are tied to each other, Aldino, I do feel like they feel the need to make them share these same base core kind of things, and yet it does not work. And it's very strange that like those two classes are the classes you can just cheat level simultaneously. Like, it's all so weird, and it is, I see in the chat, a vestigial like after it's like this weird vestigial after effect of the changes they've undergone. So I honestly don't think that separating those out would be a bad thing at all. I totally agree with you on that. Caster, I think, makes sense, yes, for a new DPS. I have heard Corsair, I was saying this before we even started, I've heard Corsair tossed around as well, especially with the Merlveeb throwbacks and the sort of stuff we've been doing recently. But it is one of those things where I think that if we're going to revamp a class, I do think that Scholar and Summoner could use some more identity tuning. I think that they could use a bit more of that, maybe a separation. I totally agree with you on that.
This is the second part of my theory about the trailer.
Okay.
Because I was a Summoner main. I kind of switched to Red Mage just for Prog mostly, and I don't really like it that much. But anyway, it's far past time. If we get a new caster and Summoner stays the way it is, I don't understand anything about their design. Because they are going to have to redo Summoner again this expansion. They already mentioned it. Then they'll have to do it again the expansion afterwards if they keep dragging this into the future. It's time to finally fix that. And I know it sucks not being able to level both. I get it. However, shut up. I'm a Summoner. Shut up.
Wow.
Oh my
Don't
god.
care.
tell us how you really feel. Damn.
Really?
However, shut up.
How easy is it to level a healer? Like,
Very.
come on now.
And it's helpful. It's helpful to other people.
Come on. I don't want to hear that as the excuse.
I mean, it is also weird that like you can just buy a skip and it works for both of them.
Yes.
Like, don't get me wrong, that's nice, and
You're
especially
losing money here, Square. Make more money. Split them up.
But it's super confusing, and I always call it the like new player test. And this is something that I really believe in. If you pretend like you are explaining something to a new player, and there is a part of your explanation that is like, oh, but okay, except for this one thing, or like there's this, okay, but in theory it would be, but it's not. Or sure, yeah, you have to level them all, except that these two share a thing because in the past, a long time ago, they had a thing where maybe they were going to do, and then they didn't do it. Like, if you have to do something like that, that is, I love that word vestigial for it. Like, that's a vestigial thing in your game that needs to be gone. And like, it just makes it more complicated for people. It makes it harder for these classes as well because they're constantly trying to like keep them tied really closely in, you know, their themes and how they do stuff and their core abilities. And it's like, I just would like to see them be able to do their own thing. And when it comes to the idea of like, I don't know, should we not release a new class because things aren't balanced? I personally don't necessarily think that is like an argument that I actually really like. Like when they said for the past expansion, like, well, healers just, you know, they're hard to balance, so we're not going to put a new one in. I was like, okay, but when it comes down to it, a portion of your player base are healers. So like, you know, and there's a lot of them. So it's like, you can't just deny various classes a new one because things are awkward with the others. And so, like, especially too, because I felt like with healers at that point, I was like, I don't feel they're as bad as they have been in the past. So it's sometimes an opportunity, I think, to focus on that entire bracket of classes as a whole and then rebalance them simultaneously.
Yeah.
So like with a new caster job, I think that's something they could do if, and again, if they don't kind of do what they did with Dancer and lean so hard into this new novel thing that they strip other jobs in that same category of their basic themes and functionality, like Bard and buffing. Like,
yeah.
You have to like take that as an opportunity to rebalance everything. And I think this could be a good chance for casters as a category, now that they've had some time seeing how Red Mage functioned, getting introduced in. I mean, even Black Mage, like Black Mage is really strong and it's super powerful, but we were just discussing this the other day. It probably has the least dramatic and thematic and interesting growth of any class. It's like, I got 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, which flavor you want?
And I think in ways, I just talk to everyone who raids in the world, but there are ways to kind of double check that. And I think Black Mage is just not being played a lot just because of you have to learn it, right?
I think it's also a note too, like Yoshida mains Black Mage.
Yes.
Like, so if any class was going to get some very biased buffs, right, it would be Black Mage.
Don't get me started about 4 free casts per minute. Don't do it.
I think it's also important to note too. I mean, kind of like what we saw with tanks, right? They really kind of, we got a new tank with Shadowbringers, but they kind of leveled everything off as well, right? With like the enmity stance and stuff like that. But also, I think it's important to note just how, like, up to the last minute they're finalizing stuff. I think it was the Paris Fan Fest, Yoshida was still debating if they were still going to have off tanks. Like if they were going to differentiate that. Like, you're 2 Fan Fests in and you still don't know? Like, so it really shows just how, this content is still in development until like the day the thing goes live. They are changing stuff. So, but in regards to like the whole Dancer thing, they did end up coming back and tweaking all the range classes again a little bit, right? And there's always that one like, oh, okay, so this is how people are using it. This is what's happening. We'll make adjustments. There's always that one patch right after the release. But I kind of lean like I like the idea of let's fix the casters. Are we gonna get that? And then also let's fix the healers though.
I think
because that's a lot of work.
Yeah. It is, but they have to rip that Band-Aid off at some point for the future, right?
Sure.
And I don't know when that is, and this might not be the time because, I mean, let's be frank, last year sucked. So, right?
Yeah.
Or it could be time because they can basically take as much time as they want now. They do not have to stick to their normal schedule because they're already behind.
It's true.
Take that extra time.
Very true.
I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, my look on all of this stuff has just been everything has gotten shifted 2 or 3 months back,
right?
And I don't and especially looking at the patch cycle, they're not gonna want to wait. I mean, the wait between the 0.5 part 2 and the expansion is always just so bad.
The biggest lesson that the dev team for 14 has ever learned is do not release if you are not ready. There is a reason there is 2.0.
Yeah.
And if they are not ready with jobs, they're getting into the later stages of their game now.
But you also need to give people something to do.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said about.
You also need to give people something to do though in that downtime. So
yeah, and especially when we've already had certain delays in the patch cycle. I mean, I'm sure they're feeling the pressure.
Yoshida's gonna come out. Yeah, so we're pushing the expansion back. It's gonna be like holiday 2021. In the meantime, here's Final Fantasy 16. You can play this while you wait.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading chat because I think this is a really interesting, bigger discussion. And like we said earlier, we went into a lot of the nuances about some of the problems right now with the idea of utility being something that can also provide specific new mechanics and stuff like that. But it is interesting because with Shadowbringers, I think we saw a real push in design mentality. And this kind of goes for like all classes, but particularly healers and tanks, right? this push and design mentality towards evening the playing field so that you don't necessarily have those high skill ceiling classes that are like noticeably more difficult in some ways than others. Because that in and of itself creates a dilemma where it's like, well, if it has more difficulty, then do we reward it with more damage? Which then, makes players unhappy in a certain way, right? Like, well, why can't I, if I can't play this class, get just as much, I want to play DPS too, but maybe I can't do this one, or do you lower the skill ceiling and keep everything about the same and give everybody pretty equal potencies, right? So healers as well are kind of in the same boat. And it's a little bit like the scholar fairies, right? In a different sense, where it's like, if we push to essentially make the classes about the same and all essentially have the same kits, maybe with a little bit of different flair, then to me personally, like, that's fine. There's valid reasons that you're going to do that. That's something that MMOs do, and can create even balance so that players can play any class that they want and take it into any content so that nobody is locked out because of meta, right? So like all of that makes sense.
It's such a long sentence.
I know, but like all of that to say that like adding new classes into that, and this idea when you have that kind of design mentality of getting a new class that should be added because it does something different, it almost, in my opinion, makes that a negligible discussion. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, what are we really doing? We're giving the same basic types of toolkit a different flair that may appeal to different players and have some minor differences in gameplay, right? So like at that point, put a new one in. Does it really matter? No. If it can do about the same thing as all the others, fine. And it gives people a different sort of aesthetic, cosmetic, and character connection.
Right.
But if we, after what they've kind of done in Shadowbringers, instead start pushing back again with defining some more identities in the next expansion, which is very possible now that they've kind of gotten some potencies and there's these rough spots they've kind of identified, and they are reworking certain things to maybe respond to some of the stuff even with astrologian feedback and all these different things, then I think we start opening up the possibilities again of having classes that may have very fundamentally mechanically different kind of things to it, right? But we don't really know what they're going to do yet. I personally love huge mechanically different classes that do all sorts of different things and they have all sorts of different buffs and you have to play really differently and really learn. I love it. I would love to see that even with Apothecary, have an interesting mini game for combos. But it just depends on what they're going to be doing with their design mentality. So I wanted to kind of put that out there because in the discussion of, like, does every single class that gets added to the game necessarily have to completely revolutionize what that class does? I don't necessarily think so. And it's like, do I want it to all have different play styles and be unique? Yes, but if they don't design around that, that's their choice. Like, and there's reasons for doing that, Sorry, that's like a long ramble, but
so I guess my question now real quick, I guess before that, I think we're probably all in agreement that Beastmaster as a limited job is probably happening, right?
Yeah, probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why show it to it?
I would be surprised if they do something, because I saw somebody say this and my heart dropped. They're like, what if we get a healer and then we get Beastmaster limited job and there's no other class?
If that's all we get, I would be sad. I would be disappointed. I'm not angry. Surprised. I'm not upset. I'm disappointed.
Yeah. I'm disappointed.
I wouldn't be terribly surprised because every time they bring up new jobs, they're like, guys, this is hard. And the more we do this, the harder it gets. So it would make sense, but it would be great disappointment. Like, throw Beastmaster in the trash. Give us a job we can use in real content.
From the people that brought you new races without hats comes just Beastmaster and a healer.
Oops, all Beastmaster. I'm seeing the cereal box right now. But I mean, I personally would be fine with that if they fix Summoner and Scholar.
Oh yeah. Sure. Okay, that changes the balance a little. Yeah.
Well, see, I mean,
there's the
there is
that's personal, right? That's just me.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I think that legitimately changes the balance because it brings up the obvious workload they have to do. If they're separating these, it goes even beyond having to just separate them and separate their mechanics. They have to then go into Arcanist, make another class, make new quests for that.
Yeah, it would be a huge undertaking.
So here's a question then. What if we didn't get any new jobs.
Oh boy.
But they revamped all the casters and the healers and do the summoner scholar split.
No, they have to do that anyway.
Okay.
Every time we go into a new expansion, something is revamped, and especially like this last time and in Shadowbringers. So you know what? Just like all the time, they revamp huge chunks of the job. As someone who's played Bard from the beginning up until now, I'm Dancer now. They change that job every time. That's the norm.
Yeah, that is the norm.
Yeah,
I don't know.
From a sales perspective as well,
Yeah.
there are certain things that you, especially in like MMOs as a market, right? There are certain things that players will immediately ask about. Oh, there's a new expansion. What are the new jobs? What are the new races? Like those are big things that people ask about. And so it is, I don't think that they would do that unless
I don't think they would either. I was just throwing out there for
just throwing it out there.
discussion's
It would
sake.
be foolish. It would be foolish.
Yeah, it's a great hypothetical though, because I mean, I think there is merit in like discussing that. And it's funny because we've been harping on jobs, like my D&D character. We've been discussing. Sorry, we're doing a Final Fantasy 14 D&D. If in case anybody hasn't seen it previous weeks, and the character's name is Merit. I think that's why you laughed, Zen.
That is exactly why I laughed.
Okay,
yes.
all right. Let me give the context of the joke, as we all know that makes it hilarious. So, now I've completely forgotten everything I was gonna say.
Nice.
Job machine go burr. Give us jobs.
Yeah, we need new jobs. I think we do need a revamp on stuff. That's it. I got nothing.
Do you all think we'll see Beastmaster before the expansion or post expansion?
Post.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think post.
The last year being different, maybe before, but I don't know.
If they go the route that I was demanding, and the real jobs need more work and push it off. If they had a team that was working on Beastmaster and released it early, that would give people something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would be like, screw that, I don't want to.
Well, and I think on that hand too, right? They need that 5.55 to finish Blue Mage. Right? So you wouldn't want to then also let people finish up Blue Mage and then
get Beastmaster after.
I mean, honestly, I kind of hope we get it before. I just feel like, again, I don't want it to be something that's counted as expansion release content, you know, like, and I don't want it to take a slot for something in an expansion. And yet, like, you're right, with the pace that they've been releasing the Blue Mage stuff, it does seem as though it will come out after. Now, like, where exactly that'll fall, I don't totally know. But it is, again, the limited jobs we've talked about a ton, so it's not like I'm particularly super excited about it. And yet, they seem like they are developing some kind of larger scale system for it, plan for it, development cycle for it. I was talking to some people the other day about how we almost would rather see limited jobs be not at all combat related, you know, like something that was just completely and utterly its own silly mini game. I think somebody mentioned archaeologist or like, you know, librarian, where you could go around and you could collect all of the different lore volumes. You'd have like a library shelf.
Archaeology and WoW, right?
I think though with that though, especially with the way that the armory system works, right, where you need to have a main hand equipped for that. At what point is it a job versus just an activity? You know,
I mean, what is it right now?
When you get paid for it,
it's not a job. So I mean, that's what it is. It's an activity side content.
Yeah.
And like,
this discussion,
I would almost rather them just
a job as content is not something that I agree with. But you know, everything's not gonna be your thing, right? There's a lot of different content. Some people love Blue Mage. It's not for me. I'll try Beastmaster.
People have gotten the most out of Blue Mage.
Oh yeah,
like with you know, savages and things like that. It's challenge. Like, so people get a lot out of it. It's whatever you want to get out of it. I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not going out there, you know, doing like 8-man Alexanders and everything, and 8-man blue Alexanders and everything. And It's not my cup of tea. I mean, but for if it's your jam, by all means. As far as like a librarian type deal, sounds good on paper, but we have Ethos.
Hey. I think the idea of a librarian kind of job, man, just like the big grin on like Koji and Oda's face before they realized like all the work that they would have to do.
Well, I mean,
but also how much of that stuff is like maybe already typed up in either in their internal systems or in the encyclopedias, and they could just like, okay, we're just gonna copy paste this over here.
And it would give you reasons to go back through those dungeons that have those like books that you can read. It would be like, there's actually a thing in Elder Scrolls Online where if you complete like all of the Mages Guild questline, part of the reward is that you unlock like additional supplemental lore and you get a library, so that all different like lore related books, things that you come across will be added into it so that you can read them at any time. And that seems like such a simple thing, and I'm sure there are many people who don't care about the lore who wouldn't care at all, but like at the same time, it's one of those things where like there is so much lore and there's so much history and there's so much stuff. If they even put like additional books in old zones, that would be like very little work overall. And they could even just rip pieces of lore from the lore books or from their own files and just add more stuff to give people reasons to learn more about the zones. And like,
I mean, we also have this feature too that lets you just kind of go into dungeons now.
True.
Yeah.
But again, you don't have it all in one place.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to like pair that kind of stuff. But will we see this in the next expansion as far as no, I don't think we're gonna get Beastmaster first. But thinking further into like the future of limited jobs, I would love to see them push outside of it just being like combat but not combat. And I think it would help a lot of people also not be so upset when things get added to that category that they themselves might have loved and wanted to play as a real job in the game, you know?
I can't help but wonder if they've gone and looked at the statistics on how many people are actually doing Blue Mage and the content that you could do on it, and like what percentage of the player base it is, and just if Beastmaster is even worth it to even start developing.
That might be in the Lucky Bond Show data or the next one. Yeah.
Okay.
What I absolutely don't want to see, you know, talking about Blue Mage and Beastmaster and all that, I don't want to see Blue Mage plucked from limited job and put in as a caster either, because people do enjoy that content, right? And it would literally neuter it, but it would be what a lot of people want. But I don't know that that's a great idea, you know?
No.
We talked about
it's already in there.
Doing something like where if you took it into content, there would be some sort of like almost PvP-esque, you know, consolidation of abilities that you would have, but then you could also just for fun like go do this additional content to unlock a few additional like cosmetics and rewards. The problem with that though is that then every single other job is going to be like, well, where's my special side?
Right.
Well, see, you know, right, not to call out Zen, right, but the idea of like, oh, but it's already in there, right? I mean, Scholar and Summoner, that's how things have been, but we want that to change. Remember Diadem 1.0, 2.0?
That's a different kind of already in there though.
But they've revamped stuff a lot before. Like, it's not new, you know? So yeah, they could do it, but then that does remove that content then for people.
Diadem not successful.
Yeah.
Blue Mage is somewhat successful.
Yeah.
Removing it entirely, I actually hadn't heard of there being two versions of Blue Mage. And even though I do agree people might be like, why don't I get a special side content on my favorite job? I do think that wouldn't necessarily be terrible. It'd be like, keep the original Blue Mage thing and then truncate it down so that you can use it in real content. I think
instead of the Summoner Scholar split, you have the Blue Mage split.
It's still leveling the same job, although leveling Blue Mage is way easier than leveling other stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they have to change the leveling.
It probably would work.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. Okay, so before we move on from jobs, you know, with these jobs that we've talked about.
Hold on. What about Mime?
Oh yeah, you wanted to bring up Mime.
I could be a caster.
What would they cast?
Can't tell if
everybody else's abilities.
Or surprised or both.
Mimes will just be like,
yes.
They're gonna cast punch.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see it if you.
I just wanted to bring up something that wasn't what everyone was talking about.
Blue Mage already steals the role from people, technically. So
Yeah,
you could
that's
have a
true.
mime that could be a
Oh,
tank, a healer, a DPS, or
yeah,
a caster. Technically,
yeah.
you could.
Go 11's dancer route.
Hmm.
The one that I actually
mathematician.
wanted to bring out, like mine was my silly one, but the one I actually kind of wanted to bring up was soldier, because we are in wartime plots here, right? So
Okay.
Yes.
pull that from somewhere maybe, and
Maybe-
it would
I
be
mean, they
Yeah.
pulled
but
from
that's
Fantasy
also
VII.
yeah, that's
I
also
guess.
what I was kind of thinking. Melee would be the next one, and I no longer think that.
Hmm.
Yeah, Soldier, I think would make sense. It's interesting because Paladin was almost given more of like a knight's quest. If
Hmm.
like even though you do
well,
eventually
Paladin in the Japan client is knight.
is knight, yeah.
So
like I mean it's not technically that kind of holy devout warrior like many people think with Paladin. It does, even though you eventually get those spells, right? It does tend to have a bit more of a knight sort of aesthetic to it, which I think surprises a lot of people when they first started out. So getting something that would be almost more of like, yeah, a soldier class, or could even be drawn from Garlemald. I mean,
Fighter.
I don't think that would be a bad thing by any
well,
means.
monk in Japan is fighter.
Is it? All right.
Yeah. Not that they
I-
couldn't do it. I'm just trying to. My brain
Yeah.
just knows these things, and so I'm like, I don't know how that'd work.
I think mime could be hilarious. I would love like a mime tank that like creates invisible.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. No, Zen just saw it. We usually don't acknowledge follows and subs during the show, but Soldier First Class, thank you for the follow.
Right then.
friend, thank you, friend. Yeah, I think mime could be fun, but I don't know if they would ever release that as a new job, because
Right.
I don't know if it would have the aesthetic draw. I don't know if it would be like samurai, and then there's like a guy in the corner who's like, boop, 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 like.
No, I love that. I was actually laughing at the idea of a shield tank who just put up their shield by like, oh, whoa.
Or a healer, of course.
Or
you just run in front of a person and mime it.
Yeah.
we're going to Garlemald. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the time for it. Gun shield.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
I
gun
mean, yeah.
Gun shielder.
Gun shield.
I have always loved, and I don't think we're going to get this particularly. I mean, obviously it's not the right time, right? We've kind of gone into just general theory of jobs at this point, or like possible future jobs. I always loved the idea of like a Magitech tank where you like literally get into a thing or something, or like you have like these extra Magitech pieces that like assemble. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Don't.
I had a little bit of lag on my end. One more time?
Yeah, like what?
Like an actual mech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, an actual mech.
But like a person-sized suit. So like a Guyver?
Don't tease me.
Yeah, exactly.
Slice.
Power
Slice,
Ranger?
Z.
We've already
Robots.
had Power Ranger references.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
Power Ranger?
I would love to see it. I would play it, the 100%, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, Iron Man.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
of course,
man.
I think Gundam and anime, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So with all of these, before we move on from this, what T-shirts would you like to see Yoshida wear? If we're thinking about all these jobs, what could you, coincidentally, I am wearing the Red Mage shirt, which was from Hot Topic. So I think maybe if we do Chemist, you could wear like a My Chemical Romance shirt.
Oh my goodness, if you wore an MCR shirt.
Funny thing, I didn't even
plan it.
Plan this. I didn't even plan it. But if we're talking about Corsair,
Yeah.
Oh.
There we go.
Uh-huh.
There we go.
Next
Very
job,
nice.
Space Pirate.
This
Yeah.
reminds me
Going
of the
to
one
the
time.
moon! Space
Yeah.
Pirate!
This reminds me of the one time we all like showed up wearing the same
Yeah.
FF8
Oh,
shirt,
yeah.
We were like, guys, look at this FF8 shirt. It's so great. And then we all wore it.
and then it's like, wait a minute. Okay.
That actually predicted the next expansion.
Yeah. I could see him wearing. I don't know what other chemists. I don't know.
Pook just says Ultimisia in the chat.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be a shirt that has a potion bottle on
Yeah,
it.
it could
you know
be.
what I mean?
I mean, to be
Okay.
fair, it was Squall, so we
or
did
it could be a
predict
shirt of My
Gunbreaker.
Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
It could be a
Yeah.
Full Metal Alchemist shirt. It could-
Yeah. Full Metal
Or
Alchemist,
or Yoshida's like, hold on, I need to take a drink, and it's just like this giant ass like potion bottle with like blue Kool-Aid or something.
Yeah.
I guess it's worth noting, because as I was thinking about these shirts, I don't actually know if we mentioned today. We've mentioned it before, but I don't think we actually mentioned Necromancer as a possible cast.
No, we didn't.
We have not. We have not.
Which
that's
is
one of the big ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, but it not that they couldn't do it, right? But when I think Final Fantasy jobs, that does not come up.
It
That's
would be
good to me, honestly. Like, make something new.
No,
we demand it, remember?
That's very fair, right? To have something new that we haven't had before. And that's, but it's also not Final Fantasy. So it's like, it's that back and forth, right? Where it's like, give us some Final Fantasy stuff. Give us something new. But why wasn't Ultimisia the boss?
5? It's in 5?
Was there?
Yep.
Oh, I'll be okay.
Yep. In some of the versions. They put it in some of the versions. Like, Game Boy Advance, I know had it.
Necromancer's also tough because, and I don't know a huge amount about this, so like I'm gonna preface all of this, right? But Necromancer's also tough from what I understand in various like Eastern markets, because of the like concepts of raising the dead and like what that means. Like,
the game is in China. They did have to redo the skeletons.
Like, it's something that I think there's more than enough lore to back it up. I think there's even more than enough lore to justify some kind of Gelmoran blood mage. I think there's like more than enough lore to justify.
We're sitting here, all these jobs, then Rick just throws out Gelmoran blood mage. Okay.
I've had some RP lore discussions recently.
You don't say.
We were doing actually a big talk about like Necromancer and how it shows up in all of the different lore in game so far. Somebody was asking a question if it was like feasible for their character to be one, which was what put me on a lot of this. So like, it's there, but again, it's different when it's a villain versus a class you play as a hero. And with their markets being as worldwide as they are, that I think is going to be one of the most prohibitive things to it. But
I mean, as the caster, you could get away with it because it would have things like maybe drain, right?
Right.
There's not necessarily any sort of undead animation with that, and
you know, I'm trying to think. We talked to Koji years ago about something related, and basically what it comes down to is in China, there's you know, like here we have like ESRB and stuff like that, but in China there's this thing. I think what was it called, like fear or something? So basically it's like bones you can't show, and so I don't know if they could get because you know we're already talking about like, oh, they should revamp this class and revamp this class. Also, they should introduce Necromancer and have 2 different sets of models.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
I mean, maybe they just don't call it Necromancer and it's just a dark mage like we're talking about. I mean, we had the ink mages, you know,
like a void mage.
That was
or just ink mage. Just ink mage.
I mean, Ink Mage exists. It's just Scholar and Summoner. This is what they decided to call that category.
It's that one. It's that emote. That one emote. That's
what
the
if
job.
Ink Mage is the new Arcanist half?
I mean, you know, I don't care what.
Get some help. Stop it.
I don't care what they do. I don't care what they name it. Just do it. I don't care.
Just trying to make Charles happy. He's so sad during raid all the time. We're like, no, you can play Red Mage, it's fine. You want to play Monk? Our Monk will play something else.
Square Enix, please. Aldiano is suffering.
Yeah.
Won't somebody think of the casters?
I'm just tired of how. Thank you.
For only 100 gil a month, you can help.
Because it's like, why is it this way? Why? Why can 2 of the 3 raise? Because they're from Arcanist, you know, like because Summoner was from Arcanist, and then they had to give it to Red Mage to give it the same utility. It's so broken. Yeah, give me a Necromancer or an Ink Mage, whatever, but fix it too, you know.
Yes.
All he knows at this point, he's like, "I'll take a new Eggy. Just give me something."
Fine. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Necromancer, I don't think is completely off the table. I do think there are certain difficulties in it, and making it like a playable class that you as a hero can play, that they would have to deal with. But I mean, who knows? Like, they could really be saying like, we want to do something totally different. We want to do something that is pretty wild. And like you were saying, it has been in Final Fantasy before. There have maybe been some problems with distributing it, or it's been removed from certain, you know, certain ones that went to certain countries, or, you know, but like it is something that exists, and a lot of other MMOs, especially Western MMOs, players love that necromancer type class, right?
Yeah.
So it could be a thing. I just wanted to make sure we mentioned it before we booked
I mean,
out.
as like I said, right, as like un-Final Fantasy as the idea of a necromancer class sounds, like anytime you think about any kind of like RPG in the West, necromancer comes up a lot.
Yeah.
So we do know that Yoshida is a fan of Diablo. I mean,
right.
So if he's wearing a Diablo shirt, we know what that means.
Yeah, you know, so they could do void scent instead of zombies or bones, you know.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so what we
evolution off of black magic or
void summoner, void summoner.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, there you go. So what my Chemical Romance T-shirt. Pook said Full Metal Alchemist, but remember, alchemy is a craft, so I don't know if we would do Full Metal. I mean, maybe because but that could also hint at the Iron Man job.
Wow.
I mean, this one's so out of the blue. The mentions about like rune earlier or things like that. I have thought that it would be really neat. We have like the ley lines, and we know that there's all sorts of wards, glyphs, like all sorts of things that are used in the world. I do think it would be fun to get some kind of caster or even a healer, I don't know, that could almost do those sort of like actual like runic sigils, or like the putting down those complex patterns, kind of Full Metal Alchemist style, right? Where they draw out all of the
mudra.
Yeah,
like that's gonna be weird for me because 11 did have rune fencer, but it was a tank.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but 11 had dancer, and it was many different things.
Yeah.
Well, see, 11's dancer was more
Dark
of a
Knight.
support, and we don't have that in 14.
Yeah.
It sounded for a second like you were saying farteen, and I did laugh.
I don't have that in 14.
Final Fantasy farteen. It's always about farts with you, Rook. Notice how she doesn't deny it either, right?
No. There's a siren going by. I was trying to see the audio recording.
Yeah. No. You just weren't denying it.
Likely excuse, even though I definitely heard it.
Yeah,
I did.
She has a soundboard. She's got a Stream Deck. She told me the other day she's got a Stream Deck. She's just got a siren on there so that she can.
Look, I'm a woman of discerning taste, and fart jokes will never be not hilarious.
I mean, come on.
As we discussed earlier, we are 12. It's okay to like fart jokes.
Thinking back, go back and look at our Twitter from a few weeks ago. I think we have a comment there too about farts from one of Rook's streams.
Throw in our eyes at the chat real fast. If anybody else has any other quick job predictions. Geomancy is mentioned in Kugane in the Astrologian quest, but it's supposed to be, specifically, we brushed on this earlier, I think Zen did, it is supposed to be essentially astrology, except the Earth.
There's also, I mean, there's and I can't remember the name of the dungeon to save my life, but there is that one dungeon in from Stormblood 2 that's basically like the Geomancy temple kind of.
Compass. Swallow's Compass.
Swallow's Compass. Yep. That's the one.
That would also be so perfect because they could just literally reuse the sets of that dungeon. I mean, they could even like reuse the bosses because there's like the different elementally aspected bosses that are supposedly kept there to protect.
Just literally go into the dungeon. We cleaned it out. There's nothing left, and we can,
Yeah.
Soldier First Class says Time Age. We did have time stuff in Eden.
Eden, as well as, I mean, Alexander could be a source.
That's true. There's a lot of time shit going on.
Final prediction: Geomancer, Healer, Time Mage, Caster. Like Geomancer now that White Mage is no longer doing elemental magic.
It's true.
It's like their magic has evolved, but something that was maybe a little bit more thematic, almost in that druidic kind of sense, or that like really raw elemental sense, would be kind of interesting.
I would love to see Illusionist, but I don't know how it would work. And this is from like Tactics Advanced type.
I don't know. I feel like that's getting too close to Mime.
I mean, if you want the version of Mime that will sell, it's Illusionist.
Illusionist, yeah, you're right.
Like that's
the limit break. It just pulls out this big like cloth. It's like the mob is here, and now it's not.
Yeah. No, I mean, like Tactics Advanced Illusionist was basically kind of a summoner. Their big thing was they hit everything on the field, right? A big area, and it did not that much damage, but it was big field illusions. Now, of course,
illusionist. See, now that's the collaboration I didn't think of. Is the David Blaine mage?
Yeah, sure. I think it could work.
Pegasus Knight, Valkyrie.
I
mean,
whatever
look,
Nero
Chocobo
is
Knight
with his giant
could be
hammer.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pink Floyd shirt for time reference.
Yep.
That hadn't even occurred to me. They're like, yeah, we don't have hammers in 14, and Nero's over here like, but
Nero's
and we have seen.
I had a hammer.
They added, he's like, oh, but his was a gun hammer.
I had a gun. I mean, that's even a better hammer.
It's true.
Yeah.
With Alizé, they added Red Mage sort of, vaguely.
Yes.
Earlier, and then we got Red Mage. So seeing somebody with a hammer and maybe also related to time magic, I don't know how that would work, but wouldn't that be badass? A time mage with a giant hammer.
Yeah. It would
Stop.
be really cool.
Hammer time.
MC Hammer shirt.
Yeah, that would be great.
I have one off this ride.
You made it
Sai
too
is
easy.
so disgusted with us. He's like, why did I agree to come see these idiots?
Rightfully
again?
so.
I mean, something too that I noted. I mean, the Crystal Exarch does something that's almost like time magic.
Yes.
Which we do see him use, like using the tower. So could it be something where maybe
But that draws upon the power of the Crystal Tower.
it does? So
we have one of those, so
maybe they could do something with it being like a crystal, I don't know what it would be labeled.
The storyline, you just learn.
You just chop off a chunk of the Crystal Tower. They won't notice. No one will miss it.
Crystal Knight.
I'm gonna say this so many times.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's like you need the Crystal Tower for time. Why did I learn Phoenix on the first? Why did I learn to summon Phoenix with no one telling me how to do it? Why did I have to go around to get Bahamut Ether if I just learned Phoenix with no job quest? Like,
because you're just that good.
Why, when I went back to the source, no one asked me that question? Like,
yeah,
they could just do it if they wanted to, but I would like that connection. You're right.
I would like to see them go back to job quests.
Yeah.
The role quests were interesting. I think it worked okay, but then once you get back to the source and you do like that last level 80 quest, they were all very copy paste and dumb.
Right.
And
I liked it.
It was like minimal effort feeling to me.
I'm all about it. I get annoyed having to do the job quest because it's like, I'm doing this thing, I'm in MSQ, I have to stop and go do this bullshit over here.
Well, I mean, you still had to do that with Shadowbringers. It's like, okay, but before you can do anything, you got to go.
Yeah. To frame it, Aliuma asked in the chat, do you think 6.0 will have new job quests? Because that one, it seems like they've completed at level 80. And I do actually have to agree. I feel like those little bonus job specific quests they did at the end were the farewell to all future job quests. Like this is the wrap up of the characters and the narrative that we, had built thus far. And from here on out, we're going to do more of these grouped.
I hope not, because the Dragoon one was awful. If that's the last one, Nidhogg wasn't so bad. We should.
Better.
Well, I mean
the problem is that as we add more and more jobs, coming up with more and more individual quests for those jobs does just
I fully understand why they did what they did. I'm just saying it didn't work well.
No, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that like I do feel as though we need to have some kind of journey. We actually talked about this in one of the casts. I'm trying to remember which episode it was. Like ways that they could deal with this or like work with this in the future. Like even putting in like various things. Like I don't know. I'm trying to remember what we said because we came up with something really good. Where like at some point in the quest, if you completed it as X role the first time, you like had some different journey or there was something else. I'll have to look back. I'll have to look back on it because like it is weird, like you said, Aldino. As you grow as a combatant or in this field, and you get these new monumental abilities, you as a player want to feel like you are becoming the iconic one of that class. Like you want to feel as though you are growing in your craft and honing it. And I don't think that these kind of role quests that we got really gave you a sense of that. And then the ones that you get at the end also don't, obviously.
It's funny on that note, like you think about Dragoon, it's like, hi, Acidian, I too am also the Azure Dragoon.
Yeah. They played themselves by giving us them for so long, right? And then if you stop, it's like, okay, but I guess I didn't need any of all that training. I guess I would have learned it on my own, I guess. It's just weird that they were doing it and then they stopped. Like, I'm not saying, like, actual job quests. Like, do it like the Void quest, honestly. Do some stuff, get to a level, go talk to your trainer when you feel like to see it, then it unlocks the next one. Like, why? You don't have to do anything. You just go talk to them. Like,
I'm all right with that. The problem I've always had is, even on patch day, you're, like, excited. You want to see the MSQ stuff. You want to honestly level your first job ASAP, and you have to stop in the middle of whatever you're doing, and it probably interrupts the queue because you have to go do this other thing, and it's annoying to me in that sense. And then as a person who has always leveled everything to the max level, even before they were giving out cool prizes for it, you then have to go and do all of those job quests.
Right.
Yeah, I do appreciate when they don't like, and obviously they've shifted away from this, and I expect it'll be the same in the new expansion no matter what, where it's not like you have to complete this quest to get the ability, because unfortunately it just do not work for anybody. No. It just does not work.
That has killed me with casually leveling my crafters up.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's where I've seen it the worst, or felt it the worst.
You're trying to power through. If you're trying to like Amaro mount or whatever it is, trying to get them all to 80, like before you know it, half the classes that you have don't have half the abilities that you're supposed to have, right? And just from like a content standpoint, the fact that you can queue in without like half of your kit is a disaster. So it's one of those things where like I think you should still be able to get the abilities, but I would like to see them substitute something in that in some way gives you a sense of like, again, accomplishment or growth in those classes that feels personal to you in some kind of way. Like, I just think it makes sense, but I mean,
I definitely leveled an alt. I leveled White Mage on an alt recently. I used to play Asher on that alt. Don't want to anymore. So I leveled White Mage on them, and I got to level 60 before I realized I didn't have Regen of all things. I'm like, why is this so difficult? What is good? You know what? I should really already have Regen a long time ago.
Yeah, I think that, you know, a paradigm that they could use is just literally make them optional, and give you some cool cosmetics at the end, right? Cool, I did that. You know,
give me the AF.
That's always good.
Yeah, or you know, I've long wanted a little bit of customization. So like you finish the quest, and then one of your keystone or capstone abilities changes a little bit, just in coloration. Who cares, right? Your Grease Lightning aura is yellow or something. You can switch back and forth, of course, like they were promising with Eggy Glamours.
Or at the beginning of the expansion, here's your coffer with your base level AF to give you, you know, if you need a little bit of a gear bump to get started, and then at the end give you the diable one. I will never not say I am. Yes, you know exactly where I'm going with this. I will never not say that the idea to have diable AF from Shadowbringers in that one EX fight was the stupidest thing that they've ever done. Next to no hats on Viera and Hrothgar.
Right.
How about Fellowships and Diadem? Is it worse than that?
Yes.
Because it.
Wow.
Yo, you don't mess with glam.
All right, fair.
I don't know. I didn't have a problem
you took
going
it that
and getting
seriously.
it.
I mean, it is interesting because for me, I was like, all right, well, I'll go in and I'll work on this. And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, there's still no way that you can get that diable gear unless you do that fight, right?
Yep.
I believe so.
Okay, so like, I have seen, like, for me, it wasn't that big of a deal because I do extreme primals anyway. Our static goes in sometimes. We just go in, I go and plug it. It's fine. But I have known many people who really that has been something that has been really frustrating and really upsetting to them, especially for a set of gear that like is not end game gear.
It's largely because of how they've done it previously. Last expansion, you could get it from doing stuff in Eureka, right? It was a slow grind. It was a casual grind. It wasn't an EX fight. What was it in Heaven's Word? I'm trying to remember.
Heaven's Word, you just had to do tomes, right? Or there was Rowena, you
augmented
or something, and then you augmented it.
For 2.0 and for 3.0. Yeah, it was some kind of like augment again. Something
for Heaven's Word, I think it was kind of raid related to augment.
And then the later.
2.0 was definitely
was it like 24 raid coins? Was that it or no?
I don't remember. Chad, do you remember?
I believe, if I'm remembering,
it was definitely something you could easily get into with matchmaking, and you didn't need a group to do the
there were
content.
Like special like, pieces and stuff that dropped that you could trade from like those like higher level dungeons at the time, right?
That was the 2.0 stuff. The Diable 2.0 was the
tome related.
They weren't tome. They were called like ancient something or
Were you talking about like the oil of time and?
No.
I forget.
Let's go to gamerscape.com. Check it out.
It was like you would run. They dropped from dungeons. It was like just old pieces, and you would trade that in with the equivalent AF piece, and you would get a dyeable version.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think, and I'm sure, I honestly have no doubt that by the end of all of this, I feel like they'll add some kind of currency exchange in that is from the other stuff that you can then get the dyeable artifact versions.
Antique items. Antique items.
Oh, yeah, antique, and then you...
Yeah.
Streltis in the chat. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, though, so that like it will be something that people can get at some point without having to do that extreme fight. That's my hope. That's my guess.
I can't imagine they would do that though, because then what's the point of doing the fight?
Well, because they strung you out so long that like by the time you're coming to the end of the cycle, they're just like, let's get people into whatever we can for
Moogle tomes. Right, you can get the mounts and stuff from those Moogle tomes. There you go, done. All right.
No, but I agree that it does seem odd that like the antique gear or the relic gear, right? Sorry, antique gear was in my head because of the other stuff. The relic gear, is something that is like tied to this extreme difficulty sort of thing, which you can do and you can get into. But again, it gets harder and harder over time with parties forming. It gets harder and harder if you are not the kind of player that can do that kind of content for whatever reason. So like for it being a set that has no actual like bearing on stats and is largely used for cosmetic purposes because you enjoy that role.
I just want a hat that I can dye purple. Why is this so hard?
Like tying it in somehow to role quest, job quest, or whatever, it just makes the most sense to me because it is job gear. Like it's specific gear for the aesthetic of that.
I'm about to say something that's gonna make you all think that I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
We are always asking for stuff for people who put more effort into the game. I mean, that's a very vague like brush over of what I mean, but we're always like, if you can do this, you should have something special for just your job. Well, I've spent the time to find, make, have, and keep a static, and we were able to go in and get this job. And I feel special when I'm standing next to a dancer who can't dye their gear and I can.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, but that's true. You need that aspirational content. Like
no, that's fair. And again, right? It's that we want it, but we also don't want it, right? You can't please everybody, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't change anything. I want it now.
The thing is though that I think there's a difference with this. Like, it's the type of gear. Like, if this was any other thing, like with Savage Raiding, right? There's the normal version of the gear that just is the one color. And then if you go in for Savage, you get the fancy version, right? But like, that is for, you choose to engage with the raid content. As opposed to something that is like an iconic visual set for your class. Like, it would be one thing for me if it was something that was like, oh, well, with like we were saying with Blue Mage, right? So with Blue Mage, it gets made into some sort of simpler version and you can take it into real content and you can run around and you get leveling sets and all that good stuff. But then if you choose to do Masked Carnival, you get this really cool extra cosmetic, right? But it's not as though the like
you get one of 3 canes in the game.
Well, this is we're just theoretical discussion. Theoretical discussion here, right? Like, that's one thing. But if you have these classes that are, like, iconic to the franchise, and they have this visual look, and the gear itself is not relevant for, like, endgame content or gives you stats or is better or superior in any kind of way, and, like, the content that it's tied to has nothing to do with your job. Like, fighting this guy has nothing to do with your journey as a white mage, or, like, your journey as a red mage, or, like...
It's not even a real guy.
Keep it real, not real.
To me,
you're literally just getting inside your own head, or Sid's head. It's not even your own head.
Yes, like, to me, it just feels really strange, because it's like, yes, everything else in the game thus far has made it so that this is something that is like a longer grind that you can engage in for whatever purposes. And I don't even know if I think that all of those grinds, again, really fit the idea of accomplishing something specific to your job, right? To get this gear. But at the same time, like, if it is something that is iconic of your class and that like each expansion comes out as like a new collection you can do, I don't think it should be locked behind some completely random, the only instance of it being locked behind some completely random extreme primal that various people for mental health, physical health, or any other reasons just won't do. Like, it's just tough.
The funny thing is, we were talking about Heaven's Word AF, and yes, it was antiquated and you had to go into Gordius Savage, right? Did you know that as of 5.3, you just have to complete the job quest at level 60 and they'll give you not the antiquated, but the real ones? Hey, there's your job quest. Just give us one that gives us the AF, we're done. Right? Like, if you spent the time to go through your job quest, you get pieces of the dyeable AF or something. You know what I mean? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We're done. Like, you don't need to do it. It's not your abilities. It's just for glam. You can do it anytime you feel like. But it gives you it gives you that iconic look. That's dyeable.
I fully accept that my opinion is just my opinion. Well, I'm about to, I'll skip this part. So I don't see that extreme trial as that different than having to go into Eureka, because you still, to do it successfully, need to queue up and work with people to get the stuff that you need. I will say, I do think the extreme trial is a little bit more difficult than Eureka, but it's still a scenario where you have to find other people to work with towards this one goal. I'll give you that it's a little bit more difficult.
It's a little different though in terms of finding people though, right? Or at least at
it is, but it's still a case where you need to use the fact that it's an MMO to find other people and work towards the stuff. And what I was saying originally is I realized that's also sort of my opinion, and for me, that's not necessarily as difficult as it might be for the next person who's frustrated that they can't get that gear. And I do feel for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety.
I appreciate that.
There's a lot of anxiety going into Duty Finder, right?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's different when you're like, I've raided before, like whatever, how bad could this be?
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I going into like a party finder for EX content. It's not my thing. I'm never comfortable doing it. And so especially for me, right?
Of that EX trial that are hard too.
Yes, so. Definitely.
Yeah, and like that's very frustrating and disheartening to people. Like the thing is like I said, like Zen, I absolutely totally hear what you're saying, and I also am proud of wearing my dyeable gear when I, I totally agree with that. But it is tough when like these classes mean so much to people, and they may have like a history with the game. They may have always like loved the white mage character, and they want like those cosmetics. They want the ability to dye it, and like. I think we have to always keep in perspective, like whether something is easier or not for us. I mean, Fusion, like you're saying, for you do not feel comfortable doing it. And I know people as well who like just literally physically cannot do that kind of mechanical content, like for whatever reason. And there are all sorts of different things that go into that. So it is something where I hope that eventually they add some alternative way to get it. And hopefully with the new expansion, we get to see that too. And like, maybe it is tied to something different with how they're going to keep looking at these job quests moving forward, which would be great. Because again, like I do agree that I like feeling as though you're having a journey with a class that you feel connected to. And I actually really liked the way that the role quest came together. I liked the overall picture they built. I really enjoyed the bonus stuff that they unlocked. I love all of those things because that was like effort I put in, and I got more lore and story, and I loved that. Like I put time into the story, I got more story, and I was like, yes, good, give it to me. Give me the special bonus dialogue options. Give me all this stuff. Like I loved that. But it does create this like you were saying, this weird gap that hopefully in the next expansion we maybe see something a little more specific towards, because it does feel like there is a disconnect now between the classes we identify with and what we're given to like kind of live that, I guess, dream of that class in the game, right? Because there's very little in the actual cutscenes or things. Mine is like that one time in Stormblood that if you're a healer, somebody's like, you're a healer, go heal someone. Like there's very little that sets you apart as being what you are and the job that you are. And it always drove me crazy in cutscenes when I am a healer and I'm standing there and somebody's dying 2 feet away from me. They're like, "Oh, I hurt." And I'm like, "I have benediction." What?
You're sitting there on white mage in your full AF holding Harshafan. You're just like, come on.
All my cooldowns, I blew them on the way up. So like
that was a pretty hard fight back in the day for a level.
If you could have waited 30 more seconds.
If that Dragoon. Calling out Dragoons, sorry. If that Dragoon hadn't died to the chain mechanic.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like...
I don't have Swiftcast, I'm sorry.
It's one of those things where I do think it's important, even in a game where you can play all the classes, to still have something, if people really like main a class or identify with a class, and especially these iconic classes, to have something where you can live the fantasy of that class, and the gear and the artifact gear, it's like tied into that, and the job quests and those kinds of things, it's tied into it. So I hope we get to see something with the new expansion that still acknowledges that, and maybe if we do get role quests, like there might be some variation in those role quests depending on what role you take into it, or like, you know, something that gives you that feel. I would just love that, because I like the role quest, but I do agree that I think we lost a sense of our own journey with the classes that we love. So yeah, it's mixed bag.
All right, so let's get back on track after that crazy tangent of dyeable armor and role quests. Holy
it's
crap.
about the expansion, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And
All right.
honestly, for everybody, like, small continuous tangent, sorry, for everybody who really hated the way that they did that, go on the forums, tell them you hated it. They might take that into account.
Start a podcast and keep talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
works for me.
Seriously.
They might listen.
Yeah.
Constructive feedback is something they definitely listen to.
Yeah.
Like,
say it nicely.
yes, if you like put together
don't be a dick and just like like really rip into it. You know, be constructive.
They don't want to hear this is the stupidest thing ever. They want to hear
right.
I really wanted to be able to wear this particular outfit. It's so great. I feel so close to my job and I couldn't get to it because I don't have time to have a static or this, that, and the other, right? They want to hear that.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. Obviously, we're expecting a trailer. Whether it's a teaser trailer, the full probably not the full trailer. We'll probably get the full trailer in May. What jobs are you expecting the Warrior of Light to be? Job or jobs?
I mean,
mine. I'm sorry.
Stop it. Get some
I'm
help.
sorry.
Yeah, I only think like really one job.
Okay.
The thing about it is this trailer already, like the trailer is what really, for someone new, like if they were to see this is what's going to sell the game to them.
Yeah.
Somebody in chat is saying Sly is softer than the rest of us. Sorry to interrupt.
Really?
Yep.
He's about as loud as everybody else for me.
As much as I would love to see this, I know it's not going to happen. But we're never going to see a healer in the trailer. We're never going to see it because it's really tough to get hype. Really get hype over cards.
You can
for
get
you.
Cards. What do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon is all about? You just have to do it in a way that's exciting.
I am going to boost Sly here a little bit.
I'm just thinking about Urianger in that last part of the initial. I forget which one it is. Yeah, but yes, he's like cards, and I'm like, I'm so hyped for the cards right now.
Yeah,
that's me.
So real quick, I did boost Sly here for the stream. If there's issues, if you missed something he said, maybe if the audio was bad, check the MP3 version of the show. We'll have the audio rebalanced. Yep. Yeah. Zenal Worker Magic and. Yeah. Audiomancer.
No, I mean, Sly, I agree with you, and I hate that I agree with you. Like this.
I mean, in terms of like each of the healers, it's really hard to really like imagine yourself sitting in a FanFest scenario, and then.
I mean, I think the thing is though is that I think they could do it. Like, they could do it. I think they could do something really neat where like you get that like amazing visual where the cards are like fanning out around them and like one gets drawn from the air and you get some line about like the draw of fate or something. Like you could totally do that. Or like they like
Urianger in the Shadowbringers actual trailer. He's like, oh, the cards, blah blah blah. That excited me.
Like I think you could, but I do also think that like a lot of times the marketing teams probably don't think that way, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Right, so you gave example for Asher. You gave example for White Mage. Scholar.
Scholar sucks, and that's not our fault.
Exactly. So if anything, I think they highlight a caster this time.
Exactly.
I would like to attend to this because I can't think of some ways that they could make Scholar cool. Like right now, maybe no, but if they do an overhaul for Scholar, that could be a thing. And like
the Scholar is holding the third lore book. That would excite everybody.
Like if you get some line or something about like history has been lost to us, but we can uncover it, and their book flies open, and then like the new thing that they can summon appears, and it's like something cool that's not just Tinkerbell. Like don't get me wrong, I like fairies, but
it's like a fairy in a Magitech suit from Garlemald.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, they could do a lot with the sort of history of Scholar, and even Summoner. Like Summoner as well has like interesting kind of roots and lore. Like there's a lot of stuff there. But I do agree that it is harder, I think, to conceptually sell something like that. Whereas like all that a samurai had to do was be like, I'm in an alley and there's some thugs. I drew my sword, and everybody's like,
I cut bullets in half.
Yeah.
So I think they could do a healer, but it would have to be the new one, and it would have to be either that melee healer or the gun healer, because that's the only way it's gonna look cool. You're not gonna have like, think about go back, right, end of an era, right? You have the few, you know, the party, right, of the Warrior of Light party, right? You have the warrior, you've got the black mage, you have the healer. The white mage just kind of like shows up, goes and then looks all worried. That's not very cool looking. That's not something you're gonna like put on a big banner and hang at E3 is this little white mage play Final Fantasy 14. No, you want something badass.
They haven't leaned into what makes white mage badass though. Like, and that's
flowers, bloody flowers.
Like straight up though, you're like on a battlefield, and like a white mage walks through, and as they like walk through, you see like wounds healing, and this like blood, almost like essence, comes like around their fist, and then they slam the staff down, and these lilies bloom on like the enemy, and they fall down to their like. That would be so cool. Or even just like, God, I can shatter the earth and throw it at my foe. Like there's so much about them that can be really cool and really dramatic.
I think
Green Wrath as a new ability for white mage. I mean, there's so many things they could do. It's just that I think that we've seen them like, again, lean into the archetypes of these kinds of, like, I guess, traditional archetypes where like a healer has to always be sort of feminine and demure, but like that's not what these classes are in the game.
Right, not at all.
Like,
here's where I want to interject my theory or my want, honestly. And there would be probably 3 classes in here, right?
Okay.
Oh.
2 of them, Summoner and Scholar, because they're redoing them, and they can make them both look cool.
Okay.
But because we just saw it, did you not watch the 16 trailer? I want an Evoker. I don't want a Summoner. I want them to change Summoner to be that. Why do we have a pet? There's no reason, right? Okay. That's what I hope.
I like. True. I've thought about that. I haven't said it, but I have thought about that. That's
right. And then the other new class, right? One of the new classes, or you know, like that would be cool. That would be awesome. That's what I hope for. Now I don't know that it's gonna happen, but that's my prediction, and I'm sticking with it so far.
I think I would like if we do my scenario of Garlemald and Charlayan, you can have that bit of a split, right?
Yeah.
Do a Summoner or a Scholar when you do the Charlayan view, but then you go to Garlemald and you think again, right? Themes of nature versus tech or magic versus tech. Little biased, but machinist.
I mean,
Gunbreaker.
But you got to have one of the new ones in there. You have to.
You could definitely have something in there as a nod, or you know, like a quick, you know, like Shadowbringers just had a Vera dancing. You know, like it could be something like that. You also had Thancred though as a Gunbreaker, which was a little different than they normally do. So
yeah, that's why I think they could do 3.
Yeah,
I could see Black Mage.
I could see it too.
Featured. I mean, it depends on how hard they want to lean into, like, again, void stuff or anything else with that. I mean, if we look at the classes that have already been featured as like the billboard poster boy, right? So we had Dark Knight for Shadowbringers, we had Dragoon for Heaven's Sword, we had Samurai for Stormblood.
Well,
did it right?
That's so
Monk kind of for Stormblood as well.
Well, it's weird because it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at just trailers, if you're looking at marketing, for A Realm Reborn, the Warrior of Light is a warrior, but we had renders of Paladin and Black Mage. For Heaven's Word, it was mostly just Dragoon. Stormblood was Samurai, Red Mage, and then Trailer Monk. Shadowbringers was Gunbreaker, Dancer,
literally every job,
and everything else before,
we switched
right?
to everything.
Yeah, but so, Dark Knight tailored into the become the Warrior of Darkness.
Yeah, the way I approach it, it's not like what Warrior of Light has been in the trailers. It's what we've seen rendered in the trailer. So we have that whole initial party. We've had a Bard, we've had a White Mage, we've had a Black Mage, we had the Warrior. So it's like I'm thinking outside that. I mean, I could be wrong, right? We could have a Black Mage for all we know. Who knows?
No, but I mean, I think it just depends, right? So I think Sharlayan Scholar Summoner is dead on Aldino. I could totally see that being a thing, especially if there is actually a rework. I mean, I do think that Gunbreaker or I guess Machinist are probably the closest we have right now to something that would fit a Garlean aesthetic. But I mean, we did just have Thank Grid with all the Gunbreaker stuff, in Shadowbringers. So I mean, yeah, maybe New Job, if there's one that's totally unexpected for a DPS, that would be our Garlean.
I mean, and there's nothing saying too that even if the Warrior of Light isn't that new class, you can easily have that job represented, just not as the main character.
Yes. I don't know that Thancred counts any more than Urianger as Asher counts,
It's true. That's true. That's true. I think if they lean more into the Hydaelyn Zodiarch element, right, which is a plot line we know is going to be coming to a head, I could see them pitting White Mage, Black Mage, having that kind of dichotomy, maybe having them both share the space to some degree, or get something new. Red Mage would be in the middle of that, like the awkward person stuck in the middle of an argument.
Right. Alisaie's just there
Could you all stop sucking so much, please and thank you? I don't have patience for this. I'm trying to think of any others that really would stand out to me, specifically with these themes.
Yeah, I could see Apothecary in Garlean areas, because you're healing the sick, and
that seems like it would be very. If we're doing just just potion, not gun thing, right? If we're doing just potions, I could easily see that being a dancer in right, you're going through an encampment or something, and there's an apothecary, and that you just keep panning
like a field medic.
Field medic.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they could even call it that, but that also makes sense for Garlean World too, because while they have conscripted a lot of people who can cast, Garleans can't cast.
Yep.
So if they want a healer, they gotta make some.
And we had that. Who said that? John on Twitter pointed that out. Garleans can't use magic, so they cure with potions.
Yep.
Yeah, that would totally make sense.
That would fit.
And that's kind of
now that you kind of co-sign with it, I'm kind of thinking Apothecary will be field medic. I'm
really curious what next week, where if it's we're not even close.
Right.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna find out.
What if his shirt is MASH?
Oh, that'd be great.
Oh.
Holy crap. That's a reference. Wow.
Yeah. I would love that.
I'm locking that prediction in. What if his shirt is MASH?
The 14 collab no one saw coming. Get ready for the MASH 24 mana alliance raid.
Oh god.
Did you say MASH or mesh?
MASH.
I thought you said mesh, and I was like, what job is that?
Yeah.
MASH.
Yeah. I could, man.
I might need to Photoshop later. Now I'm inspired.
I want that, yeah.
Oh man. I can just see it already. Koji's like, okay, Yoshida-san, wear this. He's like, what's this? Don't worry about it. They'll understand.
Yeah.
Koji, why am I wearing a Spider-Man shirt? It's okay. They'll understand after we explain it in a year.
Yeah.
Except we got it.
We did get it because we're crazy.
There was one little note about jobs that I just saw that I was thinking about. Sylvia the Legend on Twitter said healers will get some kind of dashing ability. And I do think when we were discussing earlier the idea of what kinds of healers don't we necessarily have, we don't have a very fast, high mobility healer that might be more about positioning, or you were talking about puddles and that sort of thing, where It could be something more where you are kind of like a melee DPS versus a caster, right? Where you're having to, or I guess a ranged physical as well. You're having to more like position quickly on the fly using abilities, which could be a thing with Chemist, or it could be something for a future healer too.
I want to
that's your physical healer. It's just like the attaboy mage. You just come up behind somebody, they need to heal, you just pat them on the back, you heal them, and you dash over to the other. Come on, you can do it.
I can see this Garlean field medic with a Magitech method of conveyance, right? And that's their between the ley lines and ethereal manipulation, right? Like that could be very cool, and they have very like AoE or player-based AoE healing as well. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, we're like
Sakuchi as well. Why not?
Exactly. It's more that like because you're high mobility, it means that you in theory can get around the field faster, which means that probably your heals and stuff would have more of a limited range or like, you know, specific thing, or like you were saying, like almost a proximity thing. I mean, we have positionals for melee DPS. So like they could easily do something like that. And I mean, I see in the chat talking about it just being sort of like a gimmick to be high mobility, but I mean, we have entire categories of DPS built around mobility, right?
Yes.
It creates like a different experience that then facilitates other mechanics within the game and just variance in gameplay pacing, right? Like there's a lot of things that you can do on high mobility classes. I mean, even just with Dragoon leaps or with, you know, things like that, that if you get really good at it, it's really fun and rewarding in its own way. So I think that could be something be pretty cool, especially for field medic. I think that would actually
I don't know why, but now thinking about a healer that needs like high mobility to get around quicker, all I can think about, remember those shoes with like the little like roller skate wheels in them?
The Heelys?
just
you can activate
the latest in Garlemald technology.
You can activate ambulance mode where it just like blasts
little lights on the shoes.
I mean, as much as we were talking about how it'd be terrible to give a healer any sort of like having to be on the boss mechanic, that's I assume part of the reason that Dancer has that very fast like 3 en avant ability.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can get there, do your shit, and get out again.
Red Mage as well. Why do you think there's, you know, why do you think you can do that? Because you have to be in there for a bit and then you have to get out or kill your melee. A healer doing that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It would raise the skill ceiling as well, because you could risk it for the DPS and you could pop back to your clock position or your wherever you need to go, you know.
Get back on your tile.
Exactly.
Okay. So, almost towards the end. We're getting there. Yeah. New systems that you would like to see added with 6.0.
You know what we did skip? Which probably is nothing on the outline itself.
Oh, okay. I was like,
this may or may not be even a good thing to talk about, but Rook mentioned earlier races. We know we're not going to get any more, but I really do think they're going to give us the opposites of what we got last time.
I want to believe that'll happen, but I feel like deep down it won't.
I am truly hoping that we get the opposite genders and that they then also like add in the hairstyles and things and make
redo the heads. Let us wear hats.
I mean, the fact that you can't even use hairstyles you paid cash for.
Like if you like the new costume on the Mog Station, cool. You still have to pay the full $18, but also you can't wear the hat.
Yeah, it's like it's
Square. I love you. That is the stupidest thing I have seen you do lately.
It's terrible. I see it going one of 3 ways. So like these are my 3 predictions. 1, we get the opposite gender and they do more with the hairstyles and stuff like that, right? 2, we don't get opposite genders, but they do more with the hairstyles, etc., and maybe some general CC updates in addition to that. 3, it is not at all anything additional to Viera and Hrothgar, and we only get CC updates for all of the different races. It's like, out of those, I think I'd like to get the opposite gender and some hairstyles and or full CC, like new face, you know, like all sorts of new stuff.
I'm assuming character customization.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, character
CC.
customization.
Okay.
Like, it's one of those for me, but I really do hope that, I mean, you added these races to your game. If they're going to be the final races in this game, like any other MMO that releases full races in an MMO, you have to have the same options. Like, it's just... It's ridiculous that at this point we still have end game raid tier content, like pieces of gear and aesthetic or cosmetics that are coming out that literally don't display on this character.
2.0 started with like, hey, so we have like these missing genders for these races. We're gonna fix that. Sweet, that's awesome. And then they're like, years later, not having learned from our mistakes, we're going to introduce only male Hrothgar and only female. What?
Yeah.
No.
I feel the option that you said that was just character creator update. Period. That's it. Like, and fixing the heads, right? I think that that's probably what we'll get, honestly. Like, that's my prediction, because I don't think that they, you know, they want to do the opposite genders at some point, but I don't think that they want to do that to the detriment of literally everything else.
Honestly, at this point, like, if we want, like, a male Viera, take, like, the skinniest model here, add a bunny tail that clips through everything, and give him some ears. I don't care if it's the same model at this point. Like, if that's what it takes to do it, just do it. Like, not having it is so dumb, for the lack of a better, more thought out word. It's stupid.
I mean, as we literally pointed out too, it has been the weirdest experience in Bozja, having this entire plotline about a Hrothgar queen who, like, of course there's like more complications if you've gone through the storyline and like the maidservant and all sorts of stuff, right? But she just doesn't show up anywhere ever, and it's like, but
we have the queen, but it's a Rogadin because it's the maiden or whatever that they brought in instead.
Yes, but like they talk about the queen. The queen is depicted in all sorts of things even before that trait. Like it's so weird. So it's like whether or not they add the opposite genders, I hope they do, just because I think in an MMO in this day and age, if you're putting in new races to an MMO as part of the features of that MMO, it is typically standard to do that and allow players the option for that. Now, there are some that don't. Like Black Desert has some that I believe, even like classes that are gender locked, which is the most absolute nonsense garbage. And I absolutely hate it. But it's just like, from a practical standpoint, in an MMO, in a game where one of your major selling features is that people can make a character that represents them however they like, you know, it's like you need to have a diversity of options. And that even goes to future CC changes with like body builds, with like expansion of types of hairstyles, textures, skin tones. Like, I would love it, oh my gosh, if someday they added in a non-binary pronoun option or like anything, right? Like, there's so many different things we can do to continue to expand it, but to limit your system, which already has, like, you know, it's like, here we got it, these are the races, and this will be it forever. It's like, you gotta add the opposite genders. You need to give them the same options as the other ones that are in your game already.
If glamour is the true end game, why can't end game be fully glamored? Right? Like, I get all these cool hats, but you can't see them because I have a luscious mane. Like
that is such a low-hanging fruit and a no-brainer that if they don't fix the heads, I don't even understand, right? Like, it wouldn't make any sense
that they went forward with it at all in the state that it is mind-boggling to me that was approved. It is. I do not understand it.
They must have. Like, they ran into a wall of time, I would guess. And they thought
something happened where, I don't know what the deal. But it's just. All right, we talked about this before. Let's move on.
No, I mean, that is something. The options there. I hope maybe we, even in the trailer, right? We were talking about what we expect in the trailer. Like, if they do add the opposite genders or something,
just a Viera and a Hrothgar in a top hat. That's it. That's the trailer.
Or let them have hats, like whatever it is. I would love if we see something that addresses that, because they've been very, very quiet about it. So that would be great. One thing that I also wanted to bring up is housing rework. Do we think
yes,
get housing rework with new expansion? Do we think, what do we think is happening?
Give us instance housing with Ishgard in 5.5. Just do it.
You're muted, buddy.
Every time someone mentions a housing rework, I have to laugh. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Like,
it's
look, we know it's not not but let us dream.
It's not happening ever. Like,
they said that they're working on one.
It's working on something. I don't know what they're working on.
I don't think they're going to change anything that's there. I think
maybe it's the lottery system that they're working on.
I cut you off, Sly. Please go ahead.
No, I'm just laughing. It's so funny.
It's one of
like,
those things.
Anytime it gets brought up, it's become such an issue to the point where we really can't like dissect the true problem and give a feasible solution. There really is no feasible solution. Like, unless you can think of one. I've been asking people this for years. What's your solution to housing? Crap, I don't know.
Right. It's a complicated problem. People are like, instance, that'll fix it all. And it would give everyone a house, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, for your consideration, Mog houses in Final Fantasy XI, an almost 20-year-old game.
Right.
Very, very small. Very small. Not comparable.
And yet, still
Not
is a thing that
comparable.
exists.
There are so many other MMOs that have tackled this question, right? And like, the biggest thing is, I believe, the foundations of how the game was written, right? And like, we know that like the programming and stuff within 14, the way that they design neighborhoods, those sorts of things, it was not a forward-thinking, large-scale, flexible system that they created for it. But has it again caused a problem where one of the general expectations more and more in modern MMOs is that housing is a part of it, and they have parts of their community that completely design all of their content and community content and creator content around housing in Final Fantasy, and they continually add new furnishings into the game, and like all of these different things that you can craft, get as achievements, get as rewards from various content, right? The game is designed for everybody to have a living space. Now, of course, at this point, as we've talked about, you can get an apartment, you can get these different things, right? But again, it's just not flexible for player demand. So while instanced housing, I agree, I don't think solves everything, and it still has some questions with like reconciling existing neighborhoods and all of that sort of stuff in it, I do think that at least letting players all have a house is better than only, I don't know, 5% of our actual population can own a house. Like, you know?
The current wards are kind of like Summoner and Scholar right now. If they go ahead with instant housing in just Ishgard, for example, what I think they ought to do is just leave what's there for now, add instance housing in Ishgard.
Yep.
Yeah, there's still a problem over here, but at least you're working towards a solution over here.
Honestly,
then you have the vestigial housing left.
Some people really like the neighborhood aspect. Change that, call it like premium housing or something, and then everybody gets access to instance housing. That's what I would do, because obviously, like, you already have people with houses. If you have a large house currently, you do not want that to be taken away from you. If you have any house right now, you wouldn't want that to be taken away from you. But if you could go into an instance housing, if you could have maybe a bigger house than that, if I could get a large instance house, hell yeah, I would get rid of my one plot in a neighborhood that has no significance to me whatsoever, right?
Yeah. I'm going to be the optimist on this, and I am going to put my prediction out that in this news, or at least in the ensuing news that we get leading up to the expansion, we are going to actually get some kind of housing rework. Now, I think it's going to be instanced housing, but I do think it has to happen. And I mean, I'll be an optimist on it for everybody else. Yeah. Sly can laugh at me all you want.
He's already doing it.
I know. When it doesn't happen, you can send me a video of you just laughing at me. That's fine.
I'm sorry. It's not even just that. It's just anytime someone mentions housing, I have to laugh. Okay.
Or you'll cry.
Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. It's not going to be a rework. You're just getting more plots.
Right.
I look, in all honesty, as much as I want instance housing, I do deep down in my bones feel like that is probably what we're going to get.
Yeah, you're just going to get more plots. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
they'll just open it.
You're a glass half empty kind of guy, aren't you?
Not really.
I mean, it's just.
I mean, if the glass has something in it, I'm happy. One thing, like, the devs have the data. Like, I would assume that they have the data. They have demographic, or population data for each server. So, like, some people think it's a bad idea. I don't know, but server housing based on population,
sure,
could be a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something.
Yeah, that would.
I mean, you also have to consider too that it is, you know, servers cost money, right? You know, we've floated the idea here before. Like, I'd pay $5 on my sub, you know, each month to get a guaranteed like large plot house or something. So it really, who knows what's going to happen? I think those yeah, you're absolutely right. As much as I talk up the idea of instance housing, when 5.5 comes around, when they say, okay, Ishgard reconstruction, you guys finished it up. Here's, you know, another like 12 wards. Enjoy having to run and try and get a house again. And it's going to suck and nobody's going to be happy about it. But, you know, the handful of people that do get housing will be like, yay! And then the rest of us will just be like, And that's just how it's going to be.
That's the problem.
That's just how it's going to be.
Like when only a small subsection of a group can get the thing, it's a zero-sum game again, right?
Yep.
When I get a house, it's a house you can't get. Period. Right?
Yep.
And since they started with that, you can't revoke that. You can't take anyone's houses away. You can't, you know, you have to add something on, and that's more servers. So, yeah, it's one of those things that they should have fixed a long time ago. And since they didn't,
that's why you have whole wards of like the same like FC or whatever, right? Just all the houses.
Terrible, but also kind of hilarious. Since we had that timer where they shut it off for like a year.
Yeah, the demolition timer. Yeah.
Yes, demolition timer. They've put it back on. By the
that
way,
reactivated a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yes, and maybe like a week ago ish, it hit the point where houses actually went up. And I looked around at all of the wards on my server around the time that happened, and there were a lot of free houses for Balmung. A lot of free houses.
So if you win the lottery, you can get a house. Right? If you can play at that time, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the funny part is, if they just like kind of changed, like gave us spans of time where you don't have to pay attention, people who aren't like really dedicated to keeping that house would forget about it.
Yeah.
And then they would lose their house, and it would probably piss them off a whole lot.
Also not okay. You know, like again, it comes.
No, that's why I'm saying terrible. Hilarious, but terrible.
Hilarious, but terrible. And it's funny because, like, even when that happened, does everybody know? Do you know Glenn on Hell? We've had him on before.
Yep.
Glenn, I was hanging out with Glenn the other day, and Glenn was like, "I feel like such a terrible person because I, you know, was really excited. And I ran through and I saw that there was this like small plot open, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I really want to get this house, and I'm so excited." And there were these people standing on the sign that had been there for ages. This is after the demolition went through. And Glenn ran up and was able to instantaneously just like move over.
Yeah.
And they were all just like,
yeah.
What have you done to us?
It's terrible. And I can remember doing that once, right? You know, it's because it's on a timer. But if you already have a house, which is the mess, if you already have a house, you can easily move and screw over people that still don't have a house.
Yes. And this was like, you know, the place that he wanted to be. And like, this is the thing though. It's like, that does not make you a bad person. No. The system is bad. And so it causes these dilemmas and these problems where like I've had friends like we've talked about before who have sat there for 12 plus hours, 24 hours, getting 2 hours of sleep because they're just clicking on this sign over and over.
When I moved to Gilgamesh, I had a medium house on Hyperion. And that the reason I stayed on Hyperion for as long as I did was because I had that damn house. And so then I come over to Gilgamesh and I'm sitting there with my laptop night after night until my hand gets sore trying to get another plot. And it is this worst thing. Like it's such a terrible system. And I you know, whether it's like a lottery system to get plots or instance housing or something needs to be done.
And
it's overdue.
That's why I'm holding out. That's why I'm holding out for this to be an actual thing that we get announced, right? Because they have said, like, we realize that this system is not working. And like when they added these last wards, they said, we are adding these wards right now as a stopgap measure. This is not the end all be all. And so I'm really hoping that they have come up with something, because again, when you go back to that, if I'm trying to pitch this game to somebody new, or I'm trying to explain something in this game to somebody new, every single time that I tell people, like, Final Fantasy XIV is amazing. Yeah, it's a subscription game, so you do have to pay every month. But the thing is that you get so much bang for your buck, and there's all these features, and there's all this stuff. There are always people who immediately afterwards go, oh yeah, you sub and you get access to all of it, except for if you have a house and then you let your sub drop and then go buy house. Like, there's always this little caveat with the housing system in the game. And it's something that more and more is becoming like a huge facet of creativity for so many players. And of course, there are some who don't care about it, but like more and more people are seeing this and they're being drawn to the game because of it. But if you get into the game and then realize that the money you pay for the game does not actually support you having a feature of the game that is like just a baseline feature of the game.
God, next thing you're going to buy a costume on the Mog Station and you can't wear the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it needs to be addressed. And so I'm really hoping they really do.
Yeah.
That's my prediction and my hope. Because they're not oblivious to it, and they're not, I mean, obviously, as we all know, they're not careless about their game, which is why things like the Vieira stuff and this does kind of a little bit. It's weird.
So it's surprising to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We definitely, I think the way to look at it is, okay, we get, another set of wards with Iskard. We need solutions, not band-aids. It's housing demand is like having a big gaping wound, and you just keep putting gauze over it and then putting gauze over it and just.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, if I'm bleeding, I'll take a Band-Aid for a little while. Please do eventually fix the bone that's hanging out of my leg, but a Band-Aid will work for now.
Well, when they put the Band-Aid on top of the other Band-Aid, which was the wards on top of the Band-Aid, which was the apartments on top of the Band-Aid, like
it's not
which was the
up
other
anymore.
wards. Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I'm glad that they're gonna do something, right? But that has to be a stopgap. Right, it has to be.
Okay. What other new systems would we like to see with the expansion? I think if we're doing Garlemald, and I've brought this up before, the idea of some kind of conflict or conquest system, I think would be awesome in the areas around Garlemald.
I would like to be able to use the summoning bell on different servers.
Not quite PvP, but maybe something like fate chains, territory control.
Sure.
Battlefield type stuff. Yeah, I think that could be cool.
To kind of make like an active world, like or just an active area seem like Bastia.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And I totally agree with you on that one. That's a big hope for me, that the open world content is a little more engaging. Because that seems like a space where we really could use some stuff in 14. And I love the like special fate bosses and things like that. But when you're talking about like conquest and stuff, right? In like Guild Wars 2, the meta events that happen on maps, and there's one that they just released that is kind of like a world versus world styled PvE thing where you're doing exactly that. Like these event chains happen and you move through with everybody and you get all these like rewards and stuff as you all go through together and like conquer and hold different like areas on the map. And then there's like a big encounter and then you move on to the northern part of the map and then there's more stuff. Like it's really neat. And while I like that 14 keeps its maps and world to some degree, like not super steeped in just like this particular instance in time. You know what I mean? I do still think that like having some kind of momentum on maps, especially in high intensity situations or like with unique things that you can run and do and engage with, is so fun. And I think with a lot of what they've done in Boja, there's stuff there they can draw on to do other cool things on maps. So I'm hoping for something with that.
Gaho in chat makes a great point too. That kind of idea is great short term, right? You're going to get to that point where, like, again, right, with Boja, it's like people aren't doing it a lot anymore. So what happens after that? And that's. I mean, I think we'll see. Yeah, I think we'll see more people getting into Boja again, especially with the patch coming up and stuff like that. But at some point, there's going to be that time where people just aren't running that content anymore, and so then what happens?
You're gonna get your castrum, because I still haven't done it.
Well,
just because when I'm online, nobody wants to do it.
If it's an open world thing versus an instance, though, like again, that's the kind of thing where like people can take it or leave it. Like you can do it or not, right? And at least in Guild Wars 2, the way they've kind of circumnavigated this is by making certain metas be really good for various farms for things, like whether it's a type of mat or it's like mats that you can sell for a lot of gold, or it's these like larger scale collections, kind of like what they did with like the fate vendors and stuff like that.
Okay.
Where like there's larger scale collections you do as you repeat them that then give you additional neat things or like have concurrent achievement chains alongside them. So like, I do agree that I think not all content is ever going to last forever, right? But if they give something for doing those things, I think people will run them. I mean, people still do hunt trains even way after they probably have every single thing they would ever want from a hunt train. So I think there's groups out there that want to like collaborate and run open world stuff together. It's just giving them that stuff and then like, you know, having it be something that they can do that actually, you know, maybe gives them a little something for their time in some.
And I mean, right now too, with that Bay Area content, like, you know, Eureka or Boja, there is that barrier of entry of the instances. Whereas, with an open world thing, obviously, when the expansion drops, you're going to have like 5 instances of the same zone on each server. But, you know, eventually it's going to be way easier to make sure that everybody that wants to do this is in the same instance and everything like that. So, do I expect, you know, like a live cast room kind of thing in each of the new 6.0 areas? No. Would that be awesome? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want a deep dungeon again.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like it. I mean, it's just because, yeah, you can level in Boja, and that's cool. But I don't know. Deep Dungeon was your leveling, but it was also that cool aspirational content. Like, who cares about the one-on-ones at this point in Boja? Like, who cares?
I honestly, I never cared about them. I know some people did, and that was like their life.
There's still people who care. I know there are people who are still like farming them, basically trying to get that last title.
But are they trying to do it faster? Are they trying to get to the top level? You know what I mean? It's just more push for the deep dungeon stuff, right?
Part of that too. I mean, there's a literal scoreboard.
Right, exactly,
right? Dungeon, right?
Like it's quantifiable. You know, like why not have more of that content? I know that they don't want us to know any numbers ever at any time, but that's stupid. Stop. It's like I don't know what's wrong with you. It's an MMO. People like to know that. It's competitive and cooperative. Where's the competition? Because it surely ain't PvP. So where's the competition?
Whoa. Hold up. This game has PvP?
I mean, it's something I heard about once. I think there was like something from...
Frosty's gonna hear this and he's just gonna be like...
Yeah.
Sorry, Frosty.
I hate to say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
I would love, and I would like to preface this by saying that I don't think we are going to see this. I don't even think there's a chance. But if there is the tiniest, eenciest, weenciest sliver that we get this with expansion news, I will be so happy. But if they do something like an actual transmog catalog, glamour catalog, there are just certain UI things that they've continued to, you know, fix and polish and work on, right? And like having some of those things worked out would be great. But then also having some of this stuff, like the 2 big ones being the wardrobe just doesn't cut it. And we're again down to having yet another inventory that we have to fill until we run out of inventory, right? So it's one of those things where I would love to see them build on that glamour plate system because it is really good. But I'd love to see something more like that. You get the gear, it gets checked off in a catalog sort of thing. You have that look on all your characters. And even if it's not all your characters, just at least on that one character, please. Like, just something with that would be so helpful. And then if they did just a little bit of even just UI stuff, I think that would be great. Like right now, the windows that conflict with other windows, and you have the glamour thing open, but then you can't click on the thing for the other thing. And then, like, those 2 sort of areas for me, like as far as interfacing and, you know, data on accounts and stuff go, I'm like, I would love to see these addressed. Do I think they will be? No,
probably not. You know, I have one thing to say about the glamour catalog idea. Just one thing.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, and then so similar along those lines, going back to the housing stuff, I would basically we have a cheat engine that lets us move stuff up and down through floors and stuff. I've never used it personally. Just saying. But I would love it if we could just do that in the game. Just let me just like move something up
with the housing revamp. Give it to me.
The glitch.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stick a shelf underneath. You can just put it up. Zen has been experiencing the wonders of Elder Scrolls Online housing, which when it's like, oh, I'd like to put this thing just in the air, you just click on it and then you put it in the air.
You can turn it. You can turn it. Yeah, you can turn it an angle, different angle. All those people that make all those wonderful houses with stuff they like glitch together to make like trains and motorcycles and crazy windows and stuff. They would love that, right?
Let's dial it up to 11.
Yes, dial it up to 14.
That'd be great. That'd be cool.
Terrible. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Not sorry.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
It's like you want an overhead light. Okay, first you need a loft, and then you need to like get a snowman's butt partially through the loft. It's like it's crazy.
Something I would like to see, I think, would be a pretty. If this is housing, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, pretty easy fix. I understand partially why they don't let us use summoning bells on other servers, the ones we don't come from. But I think if you just take a couple of options out, like the whole selling on market boards thing. I would love to be able to use my summoning bell on a different server. If I'm over there, like hanging out with a friend, and they're like, I need new pants. I'm like, I'll make you some pants. But I have to go home first.
So I think the reasoning for that, because when you move servers, you have a certain amount of data attributed to your character, but those retainers don't come with you. That retainer data is on your world server.
I mean, I get that, but it's still kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's also like
within
not
the
end of the world.
Within the same breath in that, maps.
Okay.
PFs or maps. People can world travel to other servers now. So there should be something in PF to reflect that and say, hey, this guy's on Behemoth. You want to probably go over to Behemoth if you want to join this party. Instead, it's just, only server specific. But we have the technology.
Right.
We can jump. We can go wherever we want to within the data center, of course.
Right.
We should at least show that and reflect that. Just saying.
Yeah. Their data issues.
Doesn't it show the character, the name of the person that has the party? Like, because
but
it doesn't have the server name next to it.
Yeah, it's only
it doesn't have server. Yeah, it doesn't have server name. Like it's like, and even if it is like I think maps are the only thing that aren't reflected by data center. It's only reflected on your world.
It is a weird thing. And like all these like character data issues they have are just, maybe it's because they built on the base of 1.0 and never was thought about. I mean, I know they did a lot of redoing for 2.0, but you gotta know that some of that code base was still there.
Oh yeah, and at this point they're so far in, they're not gonna go back and change it.
There are some processes that they could use. Of course, I don't know them, and of course, like I say, I'm a developer, but I don't work for them, so I don't know how they are. But it's like, at some point, you buy servers that just house character data and link to that, right? But that's a really big undertaking. I can see it happening, certainly, at some point, but I don't know about this expansion. Like, because like that's just how things are done a lot of the time. If you can do that, right? I mean,
know. if we're making our dream list here, let's just have cross data center play.
Sure.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
That would be a gateway.
That would be amazing.
Like every week or so, there's always that oh man, like Pook and Rook and everybody's on Crystal, and it's like, oh, I kind of want to go over there, but also I have a static over here, and also I have a house, but like also you guys, cross data center play. Let's do it.
Yeah, that would be
we already had the first step of this, right, with world visitation. Just keep going, just a little bit more.
I mean, so many other ones have switched to mega servers. Or
I'm sorry. Puka's on Primal. I remember at one point you had talked about going to Crystal to play with Rook. I don't remember when that was, but I know it's been brought up.
Pook also brought up a good thing, a really good point as well. Even just as things are currently with World Visit on like our separated data centers, right? You can do treasure maps, but you can't attend somebody else's wedding.
Oh, that's right. They were working on that though, because that was kind of one of like the known things when they talked about it, and they said that they wanted to fix that. Whether or not they still are, or if that's fallen by the wayside, we don't know. But
that would be is something that I could feasibly see. Like, I would love cross data center stuff, you know? I would love, like I said, a glamour catalog. Those things, I don't know if we're going to get them. I don't really know if I feel confident in that. But something like being able to attend weddings, I could see that being like one of the things that's kind of added in or that they've worked on for the new X-Pack. So, I mean, of course, I'd like those bigger things, but I feel as though if those were on the horizon, we probably would have gotten additional heads up on it to some degree, or they would have been talking about it a little bit more. But maybe not, because everything has been in a pandemic. So,
yeah, right. Well, I mean, World Visitation, I mean, it was announced at FanFest alongside Shadowbringers, but it was also like, because we don't want the launch to be a complete cluster, we're going to actually put this in before the expansion. So, I mean, there's a chance. I mean, we have, you know, the showcase, we have the live letter, which should be the first part of 5.5. So, you know, if they're going to talk about it, this is the time. Okay, so moving on, anything else that we think will happen with this showcase? We have James Ratcliffe from Twitter, PS5 version. I mean, that feels pretty safe, right? Xbox, I'm imagining as well. Sly's like, no, we know they're doing it. We know they're doing it. They've said they're doing it. We just haven't heard anything since.
I've hated this conversation piece ever since it gets brought up so many times. And like, okay, we keep talking about it at least once a year. And same thing happens. It fizzles out. We don't hear about it for the rest of the year. It's back.
Well, so previously it's people asking Yoshida, right? And it's, we're talking. This time it was the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, was like, we're working with them, we're doing it. Then we haven't heard anything. So typically with Square and with their MMOs, it's usually if they're adding a new platform, it's usually with an expansion launch. Kind of going back to what I just said, when they tested out World Visitation stuff, I would think that if they were going to bring it over, maybe they would do it with 5.5 or a patch pre-expansion to get that sorted out before the expansion launches. We think back to when Shadowbringers launched, and that was the smoothest launch of anything ever. And adding another system on top of a 6.0 launch might not be the greatest idea. I think we could potentially hear about Xbox.
I agree.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I would even love to hear it, honestly, because I don't care. But I mean, more people is more people. That'd be cool,
I mean, it doesn't affect me. I'm not going to go and play it on Xbox.
Yeah. It'd be cool.
Yes.
But how well do we think it's going to do on Xbox?
It depends on.
It depends.
I mean, the game's still running on PS4. The question is if it goes Xbox One or if it's only on Series. I think is the question going forward.
I mean, I think there's been a demonstrated sort of push for a lot of MMO players across a lot of different platforms recently. Like we've seen, especially with the pandemic, people being in. But even before that, in the last few years, MMOs have started picking up momentum again in a way that we hadn't really seen for a while. Like there was this constant belief that no new MMOs could ever enter the market because they just were so expensive to launch. And that's still there. But there are so many people that are wanting to connect digitally now, who are wanting to play these kinds of games, that we have seen a lot of different developers start pushing to multiple platforms. We've seen new ones coming out, all this kind of stuff, right? From a business sense, with the new X-Pack on the horizon, with the numbers in Final Fantasy XIV being higher than ever, with it already having all of these interfaces and things that are designed for controller, to me, it's this would be a great business opportunity for them because there are a lot of people playing on consoles or playing on whatever they have who may not be able to afford a PC or all sorts of stuff, who will see that new thing pop up and be like, oh yeah, I guess I'd try that. And it's a huge opportunity, because they already have the game designed around that. So it's not like they're redesigning everything for console. It already is. But again, have we heard anything? Not since that big announcement.
No. Well, and even then, it wasn't really a big announcement. It was something from an interview session kind of afterwards. So it's all right. And it could very well be the same kind of level of chat we've had from Yoshida before, right? It was like, yeah, we're talking and stuff, and it's just from the other side of it now. So at some point, I think in the next year we'll hear more about it. But
and Jazz brings up a good point in chat, which is something I've been brought up ever since this keeps getting brought up. Majority of like Xbox players or the player base is FPS. It's kind of hard. It's kind of difficult for 14 to kind of find a niche within the Xbox market. Oh, don't get me wrong, it's there. I mean, you see Elder Scrolls Online and other things, but like I've said, it just for some reason to me it just doesn't fit. Like it would fit more on a Switch, even though technically speaking, from a technology standpoint, it really wouldn't, because it would run like
the only way it would work on a Switch is if they do like a cloud game kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that's the whole.
It would work more on Switch if the technology was there than it would on Xbox. Like coming from a fitting in standpoint. Yeah, in my opinion,
I could see some deep cooperation in which, and I don't know, but in which if you have Xbox Live Gold, you have the base version of 14. That could do it, because just then you get curious people to go, okay, I'll just play that. Then you would have to buy the new expansion. But like the time for that it's not really, I don't know if it's right before another expansion, because you'd be like, oh yeah, I'll get to try it. And then the expansion comes out and I'm like, oh, well, I got to buy that $60 game? No, I don't think I'm going to.
Yeah. I mean, the timing is an interesting thing. I mean, and especially like, right, if you do launch pre-expansion, right, which I think is probably the right way to go, but then you also have like you have to buy the base game and then the expansion. I don't know. But yeah, I think we'll hear about Xbox if not now, by May.
Yeah, even if it's just someone asking the question and them going, we're working on it.
So, or some type of
acknowledgement
sentence that has Final Fantasy and Xbox in it will be said.
And this is something worthy of note, because I see Eden commenting about like, why would you pay for Game Pass, right? So even with them putting it on PlayStation, which it has been, but with like more modern iterations of PlayStation here, they've taken a very hard line about not having those subscription online like things a prerequisite for being able to play the game. So they limit it to just the subscription that you have for the game. And I believe that they would have that exact same mentality. I feel like they said they would, or something with Xbox as well, that it was the kind of thing where you would never have to pay a sub for a thing to then pay a sub for a thing.
Yep. So
like, I mean, I guess if you're talking about like Game Pass in general as like you get it on Game Pass and you're already paying for that and then you get the free base trial. It's one of those things where I've seen a lot of people talk about like, oh, but then would you have to get this thing to be able to play and then also do a sub?
God, could you imagine if Game Pass just gave you an 14 sub?
That's what I'm saying. EA Play is on it.
Holy crap.
Origin costs $9 a month, but you can get EA Play
as
part of Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like this cooperation is happening more often between gaming companies. I'm not saying that it's gonna happen, but it's a little bit more feasible. I don't know how
precedence for it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that there's so much chat about this in our chat right now. Considering like people who play Xbox are not interested in MMOs, but it's been one of the most talked about things in chat this whole podcast.
Yeah, and I mean those boundaries, Aldino, I think you hit the nail on the head. The boundaries between platforms and PC and all these different things, they are slowly beginning to come down. Now, that's not to say that there aren't still PlayStation exclusive, Xbox exclusives. That's not to say that there isn't like a precedent for a type of community built around something. Like, absolutely, you're right. Xbox has long had some of its main titles be things like Halo, Call of Duty, first-person shooters, right? And then on the other side of that, we've also seen that there have been a lot of like RPGs, JRPGs, things like that on PlayStation. So like these divides are there. And yet more and more and more, we're seeing companies release across all platforms. We're seeing companies like, if it's an exclusive for one thing, that becomes a huge turnoff for the customer base because they're like, well, I can't play it on PC. I mean, think about like even the criticism of the delay of the PC release for Final Fantasy VII Remake, or like Horizon Zero Dawn. Like we are shifting in a sense to more of a games are accessible on platforms so that developers can just make more money kind of thing, which is not bad because everybody deserves to have their products, out there for people to play. And it's good for players too, because whatever you have, whatever you can afford, in theory, hopefully you can be playing the thing that everybody's playing. And of course, there are still some divisions, but I mean, even just with Switch, the sheer amount of indie games, mature games, all sorts of different things that they put on Switch that like previous iterations in Nintendo they had not really done, has been pretty staggering. So I don't think it's unrealistic for there to be a player base that maybe has an Xbox, especially with how difficult it's been to get both a PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox. It's been so hard. I think there are people that own one or the other that want to play it, but I mean, how successful it'll be, I don't know. We just have to wait and see. I think I'm not totally sure.
TLDR. Go ahead.
I was going to say Microsoft bought Bethesda, and yes, that is Doom. That is Wolfenstein.
Elder Scrolls.
Starfield, Fallout, right? That's a big reason why. Now, maybe they're more investing in Western RPGs because they also have, I think they have Obsidian. I think they may have In Exile, who does Wasteland. I don't know if they're still, independent or not.
They do have Obsidian.
Yeah, they definitely have Obsidian. I don't know about In Exile, but they are pushing towards RPG, not quite JRPG, right? Maybe that's just because they can't buy anyone over there, right? Who knows? Right. But it's interesting. I'm not saying that it's going to happen anytime soon, but there's movement. Is it a trend? I don't know. It could be a blip.
Yeah. Who knows? I was just going to say, TLDR, you don't have to like Star Wars or Star Trek. You can like both. You don't have to like MMOs or FPS. You can like and play both. And as a person who for a long time did not like FPS, mostly because of a lot of the communities there, when I found people in an MMO who were not terrible, who also liked FPSs, I then got into FPSs. So the opposite could also happen, I guess.
It could.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's more money. It's just how much is the effort, right? It's money to effort.
Well, and you think about it too. I mean, with just from what I can tell, right, the Xbox ecosystem probably isn't too dissimilar from PCs, especially more so nowadays. So I mean, how much extra effort is there needed to bring it to Xbox versus what they're already doing on PC?
Right.
So I mean, if they can, and it's an extra couple hours of work for a patch cycle or something, like might as well.
Craig almost made it to the end.
Audio recorder.
Yeah. I just saw him.
So close.
He's just tired.
The next one is very important and really.
I would be too. We've been live for almost 4 hours.
Yeah.
But we have to touch on the next one. This is very important for the next.
Fusion, would you like to take it home?
Hildebrand. That's it. That's the expansion. It's just Hildebrand. We need Hildebrand.
Where is Hildebrand? Why do we not know what is happening
in the world is?
We saw him in that one dungeon on the first as a gold boy.
The Hero's Gauntlet.
Hero's Gauntlet. We need to follow up. I have another really great comparison, but I don't want to spoil any TV shows for people that haven't seen it.
Oh, sure, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly what I'm referencing.
Exactly. But it's
we need Hildebrand. To me. We need Hildebrand. Please bring Hildebrand.
I honestly, out of all the content that I thought they might drop or like not continue or whatever it is, not having Hildebrand this patch cycle was actually really surprising to me, because I don't know, maybe there are numbers behind the scenes where they really were like, nobody does these quests. But to me, from the get-go, anytime, like years ago when I started playing the game, Hildebrand was one of the things that the community was just like, they love. It's a weird comedy quest line that really has no bearing on anything. And I love that because it's so...
Technically.
I mean, there's trials and there's other
stuff.
stuff.
You actually have to do the Hildebrand stuff to do the
mentor
roulette unlock.
Yes.
Yeah.
like that's there, but I mean, as far as like the actual main story goes, as far as like other things, right? It like runs parallel, but it's rare that you just see a quest chain in a game whose like entire purpose is just to be funny, like that like spans multiple expansions. That is like an ongoing thing. And I was really sad to not see it. So I hope they keep doing it.
Right.
Hopefully.
We just need an explanation. Like, if Hildebrand was there, that means he was pulled from wherever he is, which we don't know where he is. But why? Did we only pull Warriors of Light or people who were already awakened? Or did we just pull people who were like, I want to save the world in general? Right? I guess it's in general.
He pulled the people who want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
Yeah, like maybe. But like there's some fertile, story there.
There's
that'd be cool.
Some solid lore crap they could put in there. Like that'd be awesome.
Really cool.
So Hildebrand. Yeah. 6.0. It doesn't have to be 6.0. It can be 6.25 or something, right? Give us Hildebrand.
I'll be really surprised if they tell us about Hildebrand in the showcase though.
Maybe the trailer just has Hildebrand.
Because they never really mention it.
No, not at all.
In spaces like this, they never really mention it. It's always a live letter, which we do have a live letter, but it's not touching on
expansion
6.0. So maybe one quest.
We're fighting Fandaniel and Lunar Bahamut, and Hildebrand just comes crashing out of the air into Lunar Bahamut and defeats Lunar Bahamut.
Yeah,
such a Hildebrand thing,
right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a reason we have that term, full Hildebrand. Like, we need more Hildebrand. Yeah. We need more Hildebrand.
And Greg.
Oh yes, definitely.
And Greg and the chicken that's painted green.
We went to another world. Where is Gilgamesh? Gilgamesh is the only other person who travels the rift in every game.
They literally went through a rift in the void at the end of the last slot. Like, they set that stuff up perfectly for 5.0. Yeah. Where are they at?
Gilgamesh and Hildebrand, children in the void. That's what I'm thinking.
I can't help but wonder if maybe that was something that was a victim of the pandemic. Yeah. Like,
perhaps.
And I really do wonder that. Like, if that was a piece of content, they've said that from the at least impression that we've gotten, that they were able to, with that delay, get back on track for all the stuff that they wanted to do. But I wonder if there was stuff that was cut just to make sure that they could still be on time, on schedule for the expansion, for everything coming up, even with that 3-month delay. And I can't help but wonder if Hildebrand just got cut this expansion because of that. And like, they haven't said anything to that effect, but with the setup that they did, that did make it seem feasible that we would actually have a quest line with him on the first and like all this other stuff. It feels really, really weird that we haven't, like, we didn't get a follow-up on that. So whether or not that was something intentional with pacing where like, yes, somehow Hildebrand and that fertile story possibility you were talking about, Aldino, actually becomes something serious that's connected into the main story. Like,
Chat says that Hildebrand and Gilgamesh are going to 16.
They're going to 16. I mean,
look, if that's the reason, I am all for that. Holy crap.
Admiral Toast saying that maybe they're in the Void or the World of Darkness. I mean, yeah, maybe they skip ahead to that, and then when we get there, whatever expansion, then they'll be there. I don't know.
Yeah. Hildebrand is this Final Fantasy Generations Chocolina. You're just walking around in the new mainline game, and all of a sudden Hildebrand just comes dancing out. Sign me up. Let's do it.
Man. It is weird.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to bring up. I don't know how likely this is, but it felt like kind of one of those like out there maybe. New localization announcements. Obviously, going 6 expansions and there's a boatload of text, right?
Right.
But before pandemic hit, they were making trips down to like Mexico for Spanish events and stuff like that. Could we see a Spanish localization announcement?
I'd love to see it.
There's a fair player base.
Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be great.
I would love for some of the Mog Station funds to go to that sort of thing, because then that just gets you more
Exactly.
Mog Station funds.
Maybe they kind of have been. Maybe that's
maybe.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
we had the Mog Station come out, and then you know the next FanFest are like, so we're setting up an EU data center now because of that. You know, so
yeah.
Yeah, that Final Fantasy 14 online store has been really hitting.
I have been giving it money lately.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has taken some money from me, yes.
Yeah.
It takes money from everyone. Who are we kidding?
Yeah.
We've all bought something from the
yeah.
online store at this point.
Yeah.
True.
Like even me, who I don't really engage with a lot of the content. I've bought a Fantasia just for Halloween to mess around with. You know, like
I have bought 3 things. I have bought the Snap because I have an unusual love for Avengers and unusual, very, very. I don't know what the word for it is.
Undying,
unhealthy.
Oh, okay.
Passionate.
I'm over here, and there's Thanos and
right. I didn't know.
The school outfit, and then the one that just dropped this past week. I picked up too. But anyway, anything else that we think would be announced here at the showcase before we get into this last one here?
The song.
Oh,
I want to hear the song.
Oh
in
my
your trailer.
gosh, how did I forget? Okay, obviously.
I want to see a return of Susan Calloway.
You want to see Susan back?
I could see that.
It makes sense.
I'm not gonna know it. Was it Jason Lee? I'm sorry, I don't remember. Miller. Yes, Jason Miller, who did Shadowbringers. Like
he did
pretty good too.
Did Shadowbringers and he did To the Edge. And oh my god, that song!
Right.
Like I love that song.
I
bring it up every. Ooh, okay.
Give me both of them.
Duet would also be so good because the title and Zodiac play a role.
Right, we're talking about duality. Right, come on.
I am aroused. That sounds fantastic.
All of us are like, okay, yes.
Can I press the button, please?
I think you just hit the button.
Hit the button. Yeah. There we go. It is.
Thank you.
I have
Jesus.
spoken. Okay. Collector's edition.
Ooh.
Sometimes at one of the FanFests we usually get the collector's edition review.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see it yet, or do you think
hope
they'll
so.
wait for May? And what would you like to see in it?
I think they wait until May.
A statue of someone I care about.
Wow. Yeah, I'm with Zen on this. I would like to actually have a statue that is like of the same relevance as like the Shiva statue or something. You know, like I was looking over. I was looking over at my Warrior of Light / Dark Knight that came out.
Right.
And like the thing is that I actually do really like the figurine. I think it's really beautifully detailed. I really dig it. It feels iconic for Shadowbringers. But the big problem with like doing a figurine of the Warrior of Light is that like that white man, it looks like Graham Cracker Man. And I just like I find Arthur like like I love don't get me wrong. I love Ardbert, but I'm so tired of seeing the bland Warrior of Light. Like he's not like I know one person that has a Warrior of Light that looks like him. So...
And it's a Dark Knight.
Oh, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you here next time.
Man. It's like there's nothing wrong with him. He's fine, but it always is so tricky to me because like that is not representative of all of your players.
No.
And of course there's no way for it to be, but like I would love to see a figurine that is not just him this time around. And I'd also like to see, I wasn't super impressed with last time the like there was like a little art book or something that came out with it.
So so there's things that often come with the collector's editions. Sampler CD, those are stupid, don't do that. Art book, which is like the stupid, like they're always really cheap feeling. There's not a lot there, and they put out the really good art books. If you want an art book, but if you want an art book, you get that. You don't get the little like chibi thing. Yeah, I it's always the statue. The statue is what you want. I'll be really curious to see what the statue
could be. Or like the special mounts that you get.
Little,
I like
the in-game stuff. Okay,
yeah. If you're gonna give us physical stuff, I mean, that Shadowbringer's sword USB is awesome. I mean, it's not even large. It's just cool,
The one
right?
we got from the
media tour. I was gonna say I have to gotta preface this one. Yeah, you didn't get one with the collector's edition. We got one from the media tour.
But we should get it with the collector's edition.
They were cool.
They were cool, right? Like physical things that
put a tombstone USB.
Yeah.
I really liked the map we got with Shadowbringers. Like I said, up on my wall.
The cloth map.
Big fan of that one. Yeah.
Give us more of those.
There was also
the Xenos statue. Like I don't care about Xenos. I do not like the character. I actually didn't get that collector's edition because I was like, sure don't care about that thing.
Yeah.
I liked the playing cards. There's probably not everybody's favorite thing, but I really like the little like art playing cards.
Oh, I would be so happy. Like if whatever the class is, I mean, whatever it is, if they had something kind of for that, like you said, like the Dark Knight USB, that's cool. Or like, I don't know, a little glowing desk lily if it's like White Mage, or if they actually had replica Astrologian cards.
That would be great.
I liked those. I liked the playing cards. Sorry, we have a loud truck going by. I liked the playing cards, but as somebody who before that, like leading up into it, I was playing Astrologian, I was like, oh my god, are they the Astrologian card? And then I went, oh, it's just a playing tag. So that would be cool too.
No, the best part about those cards is the Jokers are 2 Ascians.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. FanFest for 11. FanFest 08? 7. They actually had tarot cards.
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had they give you tarot cards, and then you'd get a pack of like all the same one, and then you have to like meet people and like trade to get like the full set.
Yeah.
I thought those were triple triad cards.
No, they're tarot cards. There's an in-game like tarot card NPC, and there's a quest where you get the cards and stuff, and so they actually made those and put them in like hobby bags.
And that's like 4 years after I stopped playing 11, so I don't know.
I think it was
triad cards.
They absolutely were not.
I definitely didn't go to that fan fest.
Fusion will fight you.
No, 11 fan fest.
11. 07.
Wow, where did my brain / time concept go?
07 or 08. I'm pretty sure it was 07.
Never mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
My bad.
Anyway.
My bad.
Leave it to me to make an 11 reference.
Right.
I mean, I would probably, no matter what, grab the collector's edition.
Probably.
Final Fantasy XIV is one of the few games that I get the collector's editions for. And really the only thing I was disappointed from last time was that little art book. I was like, don't even give me this. I don't want it.
The art books are never. They feel like such an afterthought. I don't know.
And then you get that art anyway in the real art books when they come out.
Yeah, even if it was just like an actual
save paper.
Print, like if it was an art print of like, you know, like the iconic image or something. Like I would be fine with that because the book I just didn't care for.
Here it is. Get rid of the book. Give us a really nice print. Obviously, it can only be so big because I mean, I guess they could maybe roll it right, put a little tube or something in there, but give us the Amano artwork because there is this beautiful Amano artwork on all of these boxes, and they're hidden by the little cardboard slipcover, and you never see it. Give us a nice foil print of the Amano artwork.
For the statue, I want a 3D representation of Heidelin Squishin Zodiark. That would be a good statue.
It would be a great
Heidelin Zodiark statue could be
There's
cool.
already the shirt, so yeah.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Well, that, but a statue that is.
Yeah, that's all you need to do.
I want that.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on what you know, where the narrative goes and stuff. If we go into silver tier a little bit, I wouldn't be opposed to a Midgard Stormer wrapped around the Agrius. That could look cool.
They could give us
Even
like a cute little
Stormer?
That Midgard thing. No, that doesn't count. That one sucks.
Okay.
That'd be right. What if for like the art thing they gave us like research notes or something? You would get lore, and it would also be something you could frame and put up.
That might have like little tidbits or something.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Some foreshadowing for the entire patch cycle, but really secretive, you know what I mean? That doesn't really make sense until
from either like
this is starting to sound like a Destiny 2
or like
collector's
Sid's
edition.
workshop or something. Just research notes from somewhere that would have interesting little tidbits in them.
Yeah. I was thinking also acrylic standees. Everybody loves those things.
Yeah.
Give us a couple
But
from them.
they've already made a whole bunch though.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah, they have.
Yeah, it's just
like
one of those.
They even have more that like haven't. They're like up for pre-order that are. I'm still waiting for mine to ship one of these days. My Astola figure keeps getting postponed.
Oh,
One of these days.
Oh.
I have so many things pre-ordered on that store that just I don't know when I'm getting them. Yeah. Anything else we want to see from the collector's edition? That's our last talking point.
Like specific items in the game. Like what would you like to see as a mount?
As a mount.
I want more dragon mounts, actually, but that's also because I just love dragons.
Right.
I just love them, and I would like more of them. So that's really my entire basis of that argument.
Right.
So yep, the end. I'm just trying to think of anything else.
If we're going the Garler mold, there's so many Magitech things, right?
I mean, we already have multiple Magitech mounts though in the game.
Yeah.
It would be hard to
Or
find
either in the game or Mock Station. Yeah.
I think some more kind of like I'm thinking Charlion, if we end up going there, right? I think something kind of whimsical, magical would be fun. I mean, there's that like floating chair, right? But something from there would be kind of neat, or like an arcane sort of thing that you could summon, or
Iron Giant mount, somebody in chat said. I don't think we have one of those.
Yeah, I think we have.
We have.
We do. We got it from the counter guy. Yeah. From Bozia.
Well, it's not an Iron Giant, but it's that it's the math robot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Math robot.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of things for Garland mode because we have like the Mana Skipper, which is already like a ball.
Mana Skipper, yeah. You know, I'm gonna put in an unreasonable request.
Okay.
We've had like the what was the one they have like weapon glamours usually for like one of the new jobs.
Yeah, that's actually the next thing I was gonna say.
Give us a weapon glamour, but for all the jobs, and give us our gun weapons.
That would be very cool.
Ooh, I would
give us the gun
version.
sword,
Gun
the gun
book?
shield, the gun, the gun book,
gun rifle, gun book.
Yep.
I actually was gonna say if it is a hammer class, I would like to see Nero's gun hammer.
Yeah.
Gun lance.
Gun lance. Yeah.
They already have that.
Love to see like a cosmetic for all of them.
Nail's weapon from 1.0, Sly.
Yeah, give it to us.
We've
had the gun lance.
I like Dragoon too. I just don't play it because we don't need melee.
I would also be okay if we got something like a full set or like a sort of glamour set kind of deal.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about Garlean things, you think a lot about, especially like with mounts and stuff, right? The like more technological, here's a robot that transforms into another robot kind of thing, which I love. But I also love that like aesthetic from 12. That's that sort of like highly filigreed, you know, kind of imperial look, especially in a lot of the armor. Like if we got some kind of set that was almost like based off of kind of that like higher level armor, or if we got a mount or something that was like less that kind of frontline soldier robot and more sort of like, I don't know, what the nobility and rulers and things like might have something really fancy. That'd be kind of cool.
Or hats for Viera and Hrothgar.
Oh my god.
I mean, yeah.
That's not in the collector's edition, okay?
I mean, you could just
or there is a hat and the Viera and Hrothgar can't wear it.
You just give me another red Magitech armor and I'd be fine. That's okay. I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
If they
or like
if they put a hat in the digital goods for the collector's edition and I can't wear it on a Viera, I'm going to talk about it for 4 hours straight on this podcast. And I want each and every one of you to know that.
You know what? I would,
Okay.
Let's do it.
I will talk about it
if that happens.
Without cease. The fury will be unleashed. I would lose my mind.
We'll just let me know. I'll make a different cam setup. We'll just have you like front and center. We'll just be off on the side. We'll just be sitting there, just
take turns coming back, paying attention.
You will have to force me to take water breaks. I would not do that.
As you talk,
you just get worse and worse.
Wasting away.
Yoshi, why did you do this to me?
there's no way. There's no way they would do that. If they did,
yeah,
there's no way.
Yeah, I don't know other than that.
How about a minion?
Yeah, I'd love some minions. I'd love
What kind of
There's
minion?
love minions.
You know what I don't ever want to see is a Xenos minion.
Sure.
I was just gonna say, do we have a Xenos minion? Yet?
I don't ever
Sorry,
want it.
I don't want it, but I feel like that wouldn't
Unless
be
one of
not
the things
appropriate.
you emote it at it is like slap and it like falls over or something.
Right.
That'd be okay.
I just want a minion that I can abuse.
Yeah.
Just because it's that guy. Hate him.
Yeah.
I would love it if they
Lunar Bahamut.
I would love to get an emote for the collector's edition.
Oh yeah.
Give us
Give us little tiny
so
lunar
we don't know what's gonna happen, right? Where the plot's gonna go. But like thinking about like super cool emotes, give us like some kind of weird Final Days emote. Have a little like meteor showery kind of thing above our heads for like 2 seconds or something.
That would be neat.
cool.
Yeah.
I
would just love if they did special emotes for more things than just those insanely expensive figurines. Like,
I mean, they have the one Bahamut one on the Monk Station.
I mean, the collector's edition, is probably going to be what, 50, 75 under one of those statues anyway, in dollars. That is right.
Yeah, collector's edition will probably run at least 150.
Yeah, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to put an emote in there. Some people might be mad, but I don't know that we've ever had real problems with collector's edition availability. I don't know.
I think actually they do. Really. They have run out in the past.
That's true.
They have.
It's
and now though you can buy all the different parts of the collector's edition if you have an account with the Square store, as their like rewards things, you can actually get like just a statue or just a book, the art book or something. Yeah.
Were you gonna say, Sly?
And they're having like issues with like actual ordering and people's orders getting canceled and everything. So
that's true. You know what? That's true. Yeah.
Because you don't want to draw the ire of anyone who's like, oh, I should have been able to get it. Because like since they're not gonna fix housing, it's just gonna pile up.
Square Enix, I wanted to give you $150. Why won't you take my money?
Yeah, that's true. When there's like issues with especially the storefronts and the shops and things like that. I mean, I can't think of too many people I know that like weren't able to secure one if they ordered within like pretty close to like the release and things, but there definitely have been cases. And it is something where, again, I don't particularly like that these special emotes are tied to those statues because they are just so unaffordable for so many people. So it is maybe not so much on the emote front, but I do feel like the collector's edition is a little more doable for more people than some of those.
I think so too.
So
there's more of them in general. I don't think that there's the same availability of the statues,
Yeah. We got that Omega one coming out at some point too. I think I saw that people in Japan may be getting them already. I have no idea when we're supposed to get them, but
well, I pre-ordered it, so this is the only one that I've got.
Who knows when we'll see it? So yeah, all right. Well, I think that is going to do it for us for this week. Next week, we are going to be talking, obviously, about the announcement showcase and the live letter. There's going to be so much to talk about. It's going to be so exciting.
Another
Sly,
4-hour episode.
Yeah. Sly, where can people find you? I know you and Haps are going to be doing co-streaming. Tell us what you got going on.
You can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox. Like you said, we will be co-streaming the event. So that means both the announcement showcase and the live letter.
You've got this.
I mean, I feel like this is training for it because we went 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so thank you so much for the training. Yeah.
I need to get into the habit of like when we have people on, be like, so how long can you go? Because this could go up to like 4 hours. I'm like looking at the clock and I'm just like, oh god, I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
We usually don't go this long, I swear.
Yeah.
We had many
all right.
feelings, as per usual.
Yeah. All right. If you want, you can. Where's the button? Like totally. this one. You can email us, aetheryteradio@gamerscape.com. You can tweet at us at aetheryteradio. You can find us on Discord at discord.gg/gamerescape. We have an Aetheryte Radio channel on there where you can talk to us about the show. Sometimes we might ask for thoughts about like predictions and stuff like that. So you can post those on there as well. And of course, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Gamerscape. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and hanging out with us today. Hope you guys enjoy all the announcements on Friday. We're all super excited. We can't wait to talk about them on Saturday. So we
Come
hope
back
to see
and squeal
everybody
with
here.
us.
Yes. We hope to see everybody back here next Saturday. So we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Take care.